Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Goffstown Planning Board meeting. This is our regular scheduled meeting this evening. And as always, we begin with the introductions of folks at the table. Joanne?
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Mark Lemay, Selectman's Rep, filling in.
Philip Devanza.
Gayla Breck, alternate and recording secretary.
Tim Redmond?
Scott Ozana, Town Engineer.
Barbara Griffin.
Jim Raymond, and you'll also hear from me as chair of the CIP committee in a few minutes.
David Pierce, I'm an alternate.
Thank you. Until Kimberly arrives, David, you will be voting. Oh, as well as Karen's not here, so you can vote also. Forgot. Okay, folks, just to begin this meeting, the agenda is full, and I'm sure everybody in the room wants to go home at a reasonable hour, as we do. So I'm shooting for 10 o'clock as our shutdown time. I will not continue this meeting after 10 o'clock. So if we do not get through the applications, I'm going to say I apologize and we're going to move on. But the fact is, I'm going to limit discussion on all the agenda items. Keep it brief, please, and we will try to be brief as well at our end. And if it looks like it's going to be a long, drawn-out discussion, that application will be continued to the next meeting. Okay? The first thing to announce is if anyone is here for map 23, lots 13 and 11, it is the Vincent and Nicholas Urban and Astron Holdings application. They have requested to be continued to the October 13th meeting. So if you're here for that application, it will not be heard tonight. And you folks I apologize you coming in for not being able to speak. However, the applicant asked to be continued.
Should we vote on that? Continuance?
Yes, I'll look for a motion to continue that
To a date certain?
to a date is October 13th.
I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made by Jim, seconded by Phil to continue, have that request moved to October 13th. It has not been heard yet, so we're just changing the date. Okay, motion's been made. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. All right. We have some action, okay. I was going to go to action items, which is correction accepting the minutes of July 28th.
Motion to approve.
Second. Oh, wait, I can't. I wasn't there. Sorry. I withdraw my second.
The minutes of 7/28.
I'll second.
I read them. They look pretty good.
Do we have any changes or corrections? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes being accepted as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions,
I'm abstaining.
1 or 2 abstentions.
That's not there.
Motion passes.
I have some medical issues.
Are you recovered?
Recovered. I can't sit all night. Get up.
Okay. On action items, we have the request to be moved. We did. There's a recommendation requested from the planning board to be forwarded to the select board for the 2019 impending tax deed actions. What is the procedure with that, Joanne?
Normally you look over the properties to see if there is any interest in retaining or taking by tax deed, and you make that recommendation to the select board. The conservation has recommended one of those properties.
4118.
What did you say, 4118?
Yeah, do you know?
I'm not 100% positive. I know Patty was handling the memo from them.
It was one that was up on the mountain that was surrounded by conservation land, if that's
No.
right.
Mountain
It's
Ave.
vacant.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
vacant lot.
Vacant.
Yeah, I think that's 4118.
But the others, there is no recommendation. They're just lots that sometimes are on the list, and when it's time, this has to be back to the select board by September 19th. This has to be back to Stephanie by September 19th. And
Which is
usually by that time, the list even gets smaller than it is
Mr.
already.
Chair, I move that we...
Wait,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Phil?
I just had a question. Did the sewer commission have a chance to look at these?
No, we haven't seen them. We don't get to see them,
I don't
actually.
think
Well,
they
in the
usually do.
past they have, because there were properties that were used for the pumping station down at the Moose Club Park.
Mr. Chair, I'm on the sewer commission, and I've visited, or I've seen all of these properties, if that's your concern.
Well, my concern was if it had, any of the properties had any relationship to the future plans. Because the pumping stations, in the past it has.
These are all,
I'm just
except for
asking.
the vacant
So-
lot, they're all residential.
So what I'm guessing,
And one's a commercial establishment.
what I'm guessing Phil is getting at is if the property is adjacent to a pumping station, we might want to consider that for pumping station expansion requirements. So with the commission, the sewer commission is meeting Tuesday night, and Dave and I will both be there, and we will bring this to the sewer commission's attention. Jim?
None of these are adjacent.
Okay.
May I make a motion then?
So none of them are adjacent, do you know that, Phil, for a fact, or are you
I don't
reading the
know.
list?
I don't know that, and I
Okay.
don't know what the future plans for future pumping is.
Okay. All right.
Chair, I move that we make no comment on any of the lots except for the lot that is the lot the Conservation Commission is interested in. We recommend that be retained, but that the Select Board should consider the comments of any other town department in this decision.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Barbara. I didn't get the whole thing, but I'm sure Gail did.
He'll make some better motions than we say.
Okay.
I have it.
You got, I got everything except for the last part about other town
That's
departments.
just that the board should consider the comments of other departments. That's their respond to Phil's concerns.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, passes unanimously. And the last action item is a request for an administrative change determination for the Elm Street subdivision, map 38, lot 17, Falcon Heights, to move a lot line slightly. The approved plan has not been signed or recorded yet. Joanne?
Yes, they were in here, excuse me, they were in here for a subdivision not too long ago. The plan has not yet been recorded, and they've come back to ask if the board would find this to be an immaterial change if they were to move the lot line between the two lots, which would be 38-117 and 38-117-3. That line would head east. I believe you should all have a copy of this.
It's in our packet. It's got two little red squares on it.
And it's only by 5 feet.
Right in the very beginning of the packet, behind the minutes.
And the reasoning being that they said it would even out the frontages of both of those properties to be almost identical. Not quite, but almost.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion?
Jim?
I move that we find this is not a material change, that we can approve it without a public hearing, and that we approve the change to the plan, provided that a revised plan be submitted.
I'll second.
We have a motion to find it's non-material and to approve it as administrative change. Made by Jim, seconded by Dave, right?
Yeah, it's not an administrative, we're approving the change. It's really at the board level, but
It's non-material.
it's not material, yeah. As opposed to letting Joanne.
Any discussion on Jim's motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. All right, now we move on to the exciting part, Jim. We're going to hear from the CIP committee. I will ask that your speakers and presenters be brief and not read the whole matrix off, all the sections
Oh,
in their
dang, we're going to.
particular
Yeah, we're
areas.
going to talk about that later.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Turn the meeting over to Jim.
I'm Jim Raymond, the chair of the CIP committee. I'll introduce the committee members in a minute. This board has heard this speech several times, but for the benefit of the thousands of voters who are watching on television, I'm going to summarize briefly the CIP process. I'll talk about the board members, I'll talk about what we reviewed, and then each of the committee members has been assigned a topic to speak on, that way I don't have to. And they're gonna make a brief presentation on the area to which they've been assigned.
And Jim, did you mention this is a subcommittee of the planning
Yeah,
board?
the CIP, the capital improvements program is authorized or directed by the statute, RSA 674, 5-7, to the for the planning board to recommend or create a, excuse me, to create a program for capital improvements for both the town and the school district. The planning board appoints an advisory committee, which is the CIP committee, to recommend that program to this board, which then adopts it. And it's described in a this matrix. That's the format it takes to this board, and then this board approves it. Our capital improvement is, again, you all know this, but the public doesn't, is defined by this board's policy and the statute to include equipment and land purchases and building repairs over $25,000, purchases or lease of wheeled vehicles or motorized equipment having anticipated lives of at least 3 years, and surveys and studies for capital improvements that cost at least $10,000. Derek, have I left anything out? Where is he?
It's in the back.
Oh, is that?
Not that I
Okay.
Hang on, Jim. Derek, are you gonna be an integral part of this conversation?
no.
If you, okay, good, because otherwise you can move up here.
I'm just gonna, he's my safety
Good
net.
answer.
Quick,
Yeah.
that was
What?
quick.
Good answer.
The committee meets with the town department and school, call it staff, the department heads, who present their proposals, and it's very well presented. We get this big notebook full of their reports that Derek and Joanne and staff put into a matrix that we revise as we go forward. We also prioritize the proposals by their priority scale of 1 to 6, I think, of 1's most urgent. 6 is basically not necessary, and there's a range in between. And the goal is, 1, to define the capital needs of the town and the school district, and to the extent possible, schedule them over the term of years to avoid, to the extent possible, large increases or dips in the tax rate by spreading out the, when capital improvements are brought forward for appropriation, coupled with the way we pay for them, which could be bonds, capital reserve funds, or other methods that also spread out the payment. Now, we're just an advisory committee and the CIP committee, as is the planning board. It adopts a proposal that then goes to the select board, the school committee, and the budget committee. They decide, the school committee and the select board decide what they want to propose. The budget committee reviews it. And then the voters, in their infinite wisdom, ultimately decide what to adopt. They don't have to buy fire trucks because they're on this CIP plan. Similarly, they're not bound by this. They can add things. But this is a planning tool, and it's proven to be very useful for planning. And as an editorial note, we see towns that don't have this, and you can see the problems they get into. Okay, this year the committee had representatives from, well, by statute and by our policy, from the planning board, the select board, the school board, and the budget committee. We had Ellen Vermarkowitz for the school, representing the school board, Jim Craig representing the select board, Lauren Dukas representing the budget committee, and then Gail Lebrecht, Kimberly Peace, Dan O'Connell, and Brad Parkhurst as members at large. We were assisted in our meetings by Derek Horn, which is why he's hiding in the back, and by Joanne as the town planner. We met approximately bi-weekly, starting in June through July. Heard presentations from Diane Hathaway, the library director, and Kathy Coughlin and Amy Hunterman, library trustees, the new chief, Sean Murphy, for the fire department, Chief Eric Serino for the police department, Derek Horn for town administration, Rick Wilhelmy for parks and recreation, Mike Yurgo from the sewer commission.
Not Mike Yurgo.
Oh,
Really?
who was it?
Corey White.
Oh, Corey, that's right, okay.
Mike's retired.
Yeah, thank you. Make that change. Adam Jacobs to the Department of Public Works, and Randy Loring and Steve, I think it's Bourget for the school district. We completed the matrix on July 21. I'm not going to comment on what was in it. I'm going to let the committee members do that with their brief presentations, with your permission, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Okay. Since Brad will remember that he was supposed to speak quickly, if we call him up first, we'll let Brad come forward and do his brief presentation. Well-rehearsed, well-prepared presentation. Brad? On sewer and parks and recreation. If we say it enough, he'll get the point.
Anyone who speaks, please state your name for the record for the secretary.
Brad Parkhurst, I live at 81 South Mass Street. I'm a member of the CIP committee. I'm also a member of the Goffstown Parks and Recreation Commission. Since I've been told to be brief, I've left the slideshow outside.
Good choice.
And try not to get into it too much. First, I'd like to bring up as far as the sewer commission is concerned. Their projects that go out from years 2023 to 2028.
Before we begin, Joanne, can you tell us where on the matrix we are? If you don't know, I can make it up, but
I didn't even bring up the matrix. I just
Sewer
did my
commission
notes.
is on page 5.
okay.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Send them to me, please.
When they're ready to go, we'll have that, what we're talking about.
Top of page 5, the sewer commission.
We
Go ahead,
ready to go?
Brad.
Okay. What the sewer commission has, not most, all of these projects that go out to 2028 are in the Bernardville area. They have targeted certain streets that they want to do simply because the pipes there are in bad shape, need to be replaced. Some of them are over 50 years old, many of them are clay, roots have gone into these. And what they targeted, the cost runs from just over $500,000 to just under $750,000. I won't go down and break down each one that's concerned, because probably the most interesting part of this is this has no tax impact.
Excuse me, Brad. May I interrupt you, please, Brad? If anybody has a cell phone in this room, please put it on silent or vibrate or something other than ring. Thank you.
Lost my train of thought here. This is all funded by user fees, you being on the sewer commission and Dave. And what they have targeted now for the next several years is the Albert Street for 2023, Higgins Street for 2024, some more on Higgins Street and Plummer Street in 2025. In 2026, they're targeting a little bit of replacement on Higgins Street and also Brookline Street. When I talk about this, there are multiple sites being mostly personal dwelling, but there are some commercial involved. And then in year 2027, they're targeting Kermit Street and a little bit more on Higgins Street. And finally, for 2028, they are targeting the Rochambeau Street area. All of these are on the matrix here. Those people who are interested can get a copy of the matrix. I left mine in my big book because I get tired of carrying it around. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Brad? Barbara?
Thank you. Did the CIP committee make any changes to the request from the sewer commissioners?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Moving on to Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec has 2 sections in our matrix. One is in the vehicle section and one is in capital projects.
Right. I will address the vehicle section first.
Parks and Rec vehicles are on page 3, line 89. Go ahead, Brad.
Okay.
Just keep on going.
All right, what they've done is targeted for replacement of their F-350 vehicle, which originally was in 2024, but has been moved forward a year, simply because in 2024 it would have been 12 years old. There's only about 55,000 miles on the vehicle, but as you know, all the departments that use vehicles, especially heavy equipment, in any way, shape, or form, you don't measure in miles, you measure in usage. And this one is at the end of its line. They've had to replace some of the bed body and everything. The amount brought forward is $70,000. This money will be funded by taxation.
Questions for Brad on the vehicle? Okay, Brad. Page 6, everybody, for the Parks and Rec capital project section.
All right, the next item, and this is in the year 2024, looking to upgrade the recreation building heating and cooling system. The amount is targeted at just over $111,000. This is much needed in that building. There is no proper air circulation in the building. It's not up to code. As you know, the building gets used quite a lot, and it gets kind of warm in there when the weather's hot out. So what they're looking forward to do is upgrade that system, and that is in 2024. Questions? Robert?
Brad, Derek, are you there? Can you just listen? A lot of building upgrades, especially to ventilation systems, heating, cooling systems, have been funded with ARPA money. Was there any discussion at the select board level or with the Parks and Rec trustees in regards to the possibility of the use of the funds that the town has received?
I'll defer to Derek on that.
Thank you, Derek Horn, Town Administrator. No, the Select Board used the majority of our ARPA fees to redo the police and fire radio system.
Right, no.
The majority was done using, the majority of the funds for the town were used for that. And there would not be sufficient funds to.
Are there any funds left, or have we spent them all?
We've spent the majority of them on that project.
Okay.
So my question would be, since there's nothing in requested in 23, why are they waiting a year out and when they have a $4 million request below it?
That would be my next item to come out. As I said, we took it as presented by the
No changes.
by the Parks and Recreation Department, or Rick, and we did not make any decision to move it forward or
Only because
backward.
one of the purviews of the CIP is to actually move lines.
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, we may answer that. We did look at how to move. One of the concerns, and I forget if it was expressly stated, was time necessary to prepare for this, to schedule the work. And some of the concern is moving construction projects up we're still in a peak time of expenses. So we were a little hesitant to move some items forward that if that current situation was not present. So that's a decision you can make, but that was one of our limitations.
Just a question.
It's a good question. And
All right,
we
Brad,
did look at that.
you had another one for the 23?
Okay, the next one for 2024 is a big ticket item, which is primarily replacement and renovation of the Barnard Pool. Which,
Well, I want to interrupt you for a second, Brad. I would like to consider projects that are in this year's matrix, because I don't want to read all the matrix all the years out. It doesn't make any sense to read them all the way out.
I agree, and we wanted you to be at least aware of the Barnard Pool because it is a big item that's out
Okay.
there.
Well, we can take the big items, but we don't really need to read 23 through 28 on any department because those are all fluid in CIP anyway.
Yeah, and I should have said, I agree, I should have said that in my introduction, these numbers are not absolute numbers, they're best estimates at this time. So the number that actually goes before the budget committee, the
Right.
board, or on the warrant could
Obviously
be
it's gonna
quite a
change.
bit different. These are not precise numbers.
So
The
Brad, I'd
best
like you to
estimates
finish
now.
your pool thing there because it is a big ticket item, and then for future presenters, we'll stick to 2023 only.
all right, well, the pool is an item that, the pools are over 45 years, or the pool is over 45 years old. And it's really not up to code, especially with ADA accessibility, and it really needs to be upgraded. Several people here know what needs to be done with the pool. It probably will have to be bonded. The Parks and Recreation is looking at a possible $500,000 grant, but that's definitely not Epstein granted. And it's something that the community uses a lot. and it's felt that it's time, it's outlived itself. It needs to be done. It was originally brought forward in 2011. That was 11 years ago, so.
Any
That-
questions for Brad on the pool from any board member? Seeing none, I thank you, Brad, for your work on CIP.
Okay.
Jim, who's next?
Next will be Dan O'Connell doing the fire department.
Okay, Dan, you can have Bucky.
Dan is a new father, so he did a good job balancing attending meetings but keeping awake during them.
Okay, for those looking through their, page 2 of the matrix is where the fire department vehicles are. So I guess you're gonna start with vehicles?
Yeah, there's no current projects either,
Okay.
so just.
So your name for the record, please?
It's Dan O'Connell, Community Advisory Representative. So the fire department currently is requesting a replacement for utility vehicle number 2. The truck is about 13 years old. And then the last request would be the annual apparatus, the 250. So that's it.
I like your approach. Any questions for Dan?
Some people got the short straw and were lucky.
They were lucky.
Yeah.
No new fire stations this year?
Well, I mean, Mass Road one, I'd like to see pushed up, but, you know, that's another day.
In answer to that, though, we did discuss, you know, future growth, but because there's no proposal for it, we did not put it on the matrix, but that is an issue we'll have to grapple with. Everybody knows that. Okay, next is Lauren Dukas for the library. Lauren is the new member of the committee, and she picked up speed very quickly, which we appreciate. Yeah, library vehicles.
Dave, the new member, the fun one?
I did. She
It's,
volunteered.
as the new budget committee rep to CIP, I just wanted to comment about how welcoming and accessible the subcommittee
Can you
is.
give your name for the record, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, I already launched in. Lauren Dukas, I'm the new budget committee rep to CIP. As I was saying, thank you for reminding me. It is a credit to Mr. Raymond. It's a very accessible subcommittee, and the department presentations are very well thought out. They're the same caliber of information that we get on budget committee, I'd say. So please don't mistake my brevity for a lack of consideration. It's just I know that time is a factor. There is only one item on the library CIP matrix on page 5, line 149. It is the big one. It is their addition and renovation request. It is coming up for fiscal year '23. The Board of Trustees plans to submit a bond vote for consideration for the project total of $6,362,235. The Board of Trustees has done a plethora of community discussions, feasibility studies, all of which are available on the Goffstown website. I know the Select Board has already been presented all the information, but really the library is at 100% utilization. It does not have ample program space, public seating, community meeting space, restrooms. There's one public restroom, and it has not been expanded significantly in its 111 years since it served a community of 2,200. So it really is, I think, time to replace it, or excuse me, not to replace, but to renovate and expand. I'm pruning my notes as we speak. It is classified as a necessary capital project, Class 2, and it really has all been done. They had two warrant articles that were approved by the voters in 2021 and 2019. They had a very productive listening session in August. It, I believe, is ready for their fiscal year '23 request. They did have a fundraising consultant come in. They expect to be able to raise about $550,000 to $650,000 through a capital campaign fund and other donations, but unfortunately with the rise of cost of labor and materials, those gains will probably be offset by inflation. The figure that we've received is not the inflated figure. So time is a bit of a factor at this point because that situation is not expected to improve. But if this is approved, the expansion and renovation will bring us in line with the master plan. It has been noted on the master plan for a number of years. and it will make the library fully accessible and a supportive public space once again for the town.
Thank you, Lauren. Questions? Well, everybody loved your presentation.
We tried to
Thank
keep
you.
it brief. Thank you very much, Board.
Thank you. Next is Gail Leverick on the Police Department.
Okay, Derek, you stole some of my thunder because I was going to tell them about the good news that the CIP, that the Select Board awarded the ARPA funds to the Police Department and Fire Department for their radio system. It was in critical failure and they needed a new one, so that's one thing that's off of, that won't be in the budget or in CIP. The only thing that they have in there this year is the 3 new cruisers that they do every year. And that's what they have for this year and the out years. If they don't get 3 per year, it prolongs the issues on their vehicles because they get a lot of use and a lot of wear and tear. As Brad had said about the other vehicles, you don't go by mileage, you go by the usage and the hours that the engine's been running. They do rotate their vehicles. They use them for staff after 3 years, and then they pass them on to DPW. This year's budget numbers are fairly solid, he said, but anticipates that there could be an increase in next year's. The other thing that's not on the CIP, but it certainly is out there, so to speak, they are in need of a new police building, and they're looking into purchasing land from the county. The building is in bad shape. It was built when they had 19 employees, and now they have 50. So, and it is really in rough shape. So that's a big issue for them, and it impacts their hiring and retention of staff especially. So I guess I'll stop at that because that's the end of this year.
Great. Questions for Gail? Mark?
Gail, do you know during your discussions and your meetings, was there any talk of going from a fossil fuel vehicle to an electric vehicle, battery vehicle?
We did on DPW, but we did not on police.
Okay. I'm aware of the DPW. I didn't know if police had kind of ventured that way.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
But we also don't get into vehicle specs at our level.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay, thank you. Next is Jim Craig. He's going to do administration, and Kimberly was going to do DPW, but because she's late, Jim eagerly volunteered to do Department of Public Works as well. I may paraphrase that a little bit.
Well, actually, I told him I didn't make enough money to do both of them, but he said he would recommend me for a bonus. My name is Jim Craig. I'm the Select Board representative of the CIP Committee. And I have administration, which is on page 5 at 155. And hearing the chairman's admonition, I think I have 2 items, and the first one is at 160, number 160, which is the Grassmere Town Hall. The back of it needs to be completed to become ADA compliant with an elevator, and that's going to cost approximately $500,000. As I understand it, there was $372,000 already allocated to the trust or reserve, and the balance of $128,000 is going to be raised through capital campaign and grants, etc. So there shouldn't be any cost to the taxpayer for that. And the other thing, and I think this we did move up, the election trailer for $18,000, and that is actually, we're going to buy a trailer, and all of the election equipment that sits in the other room here will be put in that trailer and kept at one of the schools or whatever, and then they can just take it right to the schools, and we don't have to come here and unload it and load it. And it will not contain anything sensitive, whether sensitive like voting machines or ballots or all those kind of things. It's all the booths and that kind of stuff, and signs and things like that. So we moved that up because that's a good idea and cheap, and we could do it hopefully this year. Now I have, that I think is it for 2023 for admin, and I have Public Works, and the vehicles are on page 3 at 54 to 88, and 2023, the budget for Adam Jacobs came in and gave a great presentation about the trucks and why they needed them and what various states of repair and disrepair, et cetera. And he's allocated $800,000 for 2023. And I would just note that over the next 6 years, he anticipates 4.1 million, and it's pretty much broken up over those 6 years between $600,000 to $800,000. So, as part of the keeping the shock to taxpayers to at a minimum, I think we're trying to do that as well as accommodate what GPW needs for their vehicles and equipment. That's that. The capital projects are on page 4 for GPW, and 118 to 136, I think is, and the first one is at 122, and that is for funding the road plan, and it's $1.6 million all the way through. So that's for the road plan that is worked on every single year. The next item is at 123. The traffic signal upgrades in the amount of, wait a minute, is that 2023? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's 70,000, and those are for a couple of traffic intersections in Pinardville that need to be replaced and fixed up. And the last item is a new roof for the garage that's attached. That's on. Sorry, that is on 128. The item 128, and that's for a new roof. And DPW would like to put solar panels on top of that roof while they have to repair it, and they are looking to do that and possibly get some PPA grants, some money for that, for the solar portion of it, and kind of intending to use that as a what do I want to say? Not a canary in the no, but as a to see how it works out and possibly expand it to other town buildings. So,
Jim, could you tell us what a PPA grant is?
yeah, I actually looked it up this afternoon. If I can, it's a power purchase agreement.
From whom? Who funds the PPA grant?
We typically, when towns do that, we do them. They'll enter into an agreement with either the solar provider or somebody else, and essentially they promise to buy the power at a certain rate.
Okay.
Right, it locks it in over a series of years.
Okay.
And answer the comment about the electrical, you see in the right-hand column of the memo, one of the reasons for doing that is going to be EV charging stations. This is a way to provide power, so it's a study.
And I think that's it.
Anybody have any questions for Jim on either the admin or the DPW presentation? If not, we thank you, Jim, as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I said I'd buy him a beer, and I don't recommend it really is, but Ellen's going to do Marco to do the school proposals.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellen, and I'm representative from the Goffstown School Board. Keeping it very brief, on the matrix were pages 7 through 10. Without going line by line or being terribly specific, the CIP is once again for the school side written out as district and then each building. You will see on each building many repeated items needed at each building. These items include roof replacements, boilers, replacement, bathroom renovations, windows needing to be replaced, technology, such as the computer carts and labs. Air handling systems need to be addressed, core switches. A new item for each building is let me find the language for it here, the parking lot, driveway, sidewalk reclamation at each school needs to be done. So that has been added. Other more building-specific items, there's some asbestos, site drainage at Glen Lake, locker rooms need to be worked on, calf table replacements or repairs. The stage improvement at Mountain View, a Mountain View cistern and leach fields will need to be addressed soon. the high school's theater, the theater itself is not being expanded, but we're looking to add a structure outside on the Wallace Road side for, as work and storage space for theater productions. The turf field with lights in the back of the high school is on here, and I can tell you that is, that committee has started working on it, and we're very hopeful that that will be started pretty soon. Building security items and a few others. That you'll see some generators in there. The Mountain View transformer and Maple Labs chimney needs to be replaced. Excuse me. The total for this 6 years comes to about, if I added it correctly, 22 million, with offsetting revenues such as grants or the CRF E-rate funds, impact fees, which bring it down several million over the 6 years. I kept it brief enough, I think.
Yep.
In answer to Barbara's question that she should ask is, we looked at these very closely to see scheduling, and these are projects often that were limited by availability of the service provider, or you've got to batch them because you got to do it in the summer, many of them. So we're really limited in how we can move things because they look like juicy targets to move around, and once you dig down, you really can't. This is the best we can do.
And the grant availability.
Yeah, that's the other one, yeah.
Also help drive the timing of.
So we spent a lot of time on that and still came up with pretty much what was proposed because we didn't see much flexibility. That, I think.
Did I cover it?
We did.
So Jim, line 235 for the cistern project, before you go another year out, you need to get the memo correct, because you duplicated the memo from the generator replacement memo.
Oh.
Just for future.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Future presentations, that needs to be repaired.
Yeah, good point.
And the other question is, didn't the school get a lot of money from the federal government? And did that money get used for projects that were other than the ones you presented, didn't?
I don't have a listing of where they all went. We have received and are continuing to receive grant money from the feds that came out as a result of COVID, the pandemic. Those have been used for what they were supposed to be used for, staffing, education, and I believe other than that, we put them to the projects that we have listed to be done. Like the window project is underway. So,
I will note, that's the answer to your, that's a good question Chair is asking. We don't look at specific funding sources necessarily. We're aware of them, we try to put them in, but we can't dictate what the future sources may be. But it is a good question, we try to consider that, because that does have, affects the tax impact.
It does.
That pretty much, well, it does conclude our presentation. I want to thank the committee. It was a very good committee, and they all came. Everything except a couple of vacation interruptions, and which you expect in the summer. It's a very, very active committee, so it's a lot of fun. And the presentations from the town and school were very well presented. We didn't have to do a lot of work on them. They've learned how to do this. And then Derek and Joanne are very helpful. So if there's no discussion, I would make a motion, putting on my planning board hat, to approve the matrix as presented.
Jim has made a motion to approve the matrix as presented. To be send it to the Board of Selectmen. And
the school board.
And the budget committee.
And the budget committee, yeah, all three.
Bill seconded.
I got it. Okay, there's a motion to approve the matrix as presented, and then send it on to the Selectmen and the Budget Committee.
And the school committee. The school board, rather.
School board, okay. All those, any discussion on Jim's motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously.
Okay, once again, I want to thank the committee. They did the work on this.
and thank you, Jim.
And the planning board does thank the committee for all the hard work. We know what it's like to be out on Thursday nights. Thank you very much, everyone.
Throughout the summer.
Yep.
The summer.
Throughout the summer.
That's right.
Okay. Joanne, the first application is an old business application, map 9, lot 15, 16, and 18. This was continued from July 28th. Could you bring us up to speed?
Yes, this is from map 9, lots 15, 16, and 18, which are 3 current existing lots, and they would like to adjust the lot lines surrounding those lots, as well as creating one new additional lot. So as you mentioned, they were here on July 28th with their plan, and we provided them with our comments and our staff report, and one of the most outstanding, probably the biggest outstanding item of that evening from the plan review was whether or not they would be required to install a cistern in that subdivision. And the fire chief and Bill Connor did meet, and they came back with a long answer, but the short version of it is that at this time, they do, as long as there are no further subdivision at this time, they do not require the cistern. However, they will require if they were to subdivide any future lots off of this land. But they also have asked for the sprinkler systems for all of the new homes. So they currently have one home which I believe is finished or almost finished, and another under construction on 2 of the existing lots. And then the third lot, which is lot 16, has an old building on it, an old house, which at some point in time they're planning to demolish. Lot 16's area will be extended, so it will become a conforming lot, and that lot would have a house on it in the future.
Mr. Chair,
Jim?
as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, the fire department would require a cistern, but they're willing to waive that if there's a sprinkler. They're not waiving the cistern and then asking for sprinklers. They're
No.
tying the two together.
They can't ask for a sprinkler.
No, but they can say, we want a cistern, but if the applicant offers a sprinkler,
Correct.
they'd accept that.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
And we did.
So that's what has happened so far. So the other outstanding item, well, there are many outstanding items, but the 2 biggest discussion items were, the other one was the shared driveway. So that would be a shared driveway with lot 15, new lot 15. I don't have,
So we don't have any new plans in front of us, so I assume they're not proposing to do anything other than what they did on the last plan.
correct, and
Okay.
they didn't submit any new plans because they wanted to get all of the comments, you know, before doing and continuing with multiple, not waivers, but multiple versions of the plan. So
Okay.
they're asking for, it's approximately a 500-foot shared driveway between lots 18 and 18-1. I did have a discussion with Mr. Mitchell, and it appears that if, the way it is now, the ordinance does allow shared driveways, and what it requires from the applicant is that the planning board approve the paperwork that goes along with it. So that would be the maintenance agreement, as well as, wait, let me look at my notes here before I screw this up, as well as
The liability.
liability waiver. Thank you. And they're, you know, prepared to do that. They realize that that's a requirement. If they were to go with 2 separate driveways running sort of alongside of each other, that would require at least 1 conditional use permit and possibly 2, depending on how close they are to the abutting driveway. So I felt that they should present what they want instead of coming in with something that, you know, the board made some mention, but there was no actual vote. And I don't know if all of the members actually agreed at that point in time, back in July. But it is an allowed use in our zoning and our development regulations. So that was my recommendation. I felt like that it was less requirements to go through, and the fact that it meets the regulations, you know, means something. So that's where we're at right now. They also have lots of comments on there from, well, there are some from planning where they're missing some notes and things, but also Scott had several comments that were mentioned at the last meeting, but not addressed yet at this time. But again, I can't speak for Mr. Mitchell, but I believe he's planning to address those comments.
Board members, questions for Joanne? I think we'll hear from Scott first. Go ahead, Scott.
So actually, Mr. Mitchell and I spoke on the phone, and it sounds like he's in agreement with addressing my comments for the shared driveway. DPW doesn't have anything against them doing that because they're allowed to based on the regs. So no comment on that. So I think the comments that I've had are all very easily fixed by Mr. Mitchell.
All 30,
20, I only had 23 on this.
I got 39 comments on my sheets, which normally is grounds for not approving an application because there's too many outstanding issues. I know how the board members
Well,
do.
No, that's totally.
23 on
Yeah,
the-
they're not asking for approval tonight,
Of course they are.
Well, he
They're all
may,
asking for approval
but
tonight.
that's not
We haven't seen the revised plan.
correct.
No.
So that's not where I was going,
Yeah.
but I think he may
Well,
ask that.
you want to see the revised plan, yeah.
Okay, I see.
All right, so Scott, are you set, or do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I'm all set.
And did any board members have questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll ask you guys to introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you. My name is Eric Mitchell. My office prepared these plans for Strategic Contracting Company, LLC. My principal here is Rob Steris. He was here at the last meeting as well. We do have a list of comments that came from both Public Works as well as planning staff. And as Joanne indicated, the one thing we're looking to get clarification on, or not clarification, but an answer on, was the cistern. And that has come through, and an agreement has already been made that sprinkler systems will be put into the 4 houses. As far as the comments for Public Works, we've looked them over, and those are things that we can agree with and we can do. The comment list that came also from the Planning Department are also comments that we can address and agree to be able to do. So that the other question that came in at the last meeting that Joanne had mentioned was common driveway versus side-by-side driveways that may require, well, would require at least one conditional use permit. We've evaluated that internally as to which way to go, and the preference is to still maintain the common driveway for the 2 houses out back with lot 18-1 and lot 18. So as far as the board's review of this, because it was discussed a lot at the last meeting, if it's possible to at least have a final discussion or a you decide how you want to vote or what you want to do, but just an opinion as to whether we're still okay using the common driveway or whether that's going to be approached. We certainly don't want this thing to end up getting denied tonight because we don't have side-by-side driveways. But we believe that what we presented for common driveways is sufficient. So that's one item we would like the board to come to a decision on, and whether that's okay. And secondly, even though there are a lot of comments here, some of them are, or most of all of them are easily addressed either by notes or other comments on the plan. I do know that in the review letter that we've received, there is a suggestion that the plan be continued, but we would also like the board to consider the conditions of approval, which include all those comments that are there from Public Works as well as planning, to see if there's a possibility of having the plan conditionally approved tonight. So we'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Board members have questions? All right, no questions. All right, before we take any action or discuss waivers, we probably should open the public hearing at this time. So before you guys get down, let's see if there's anyone. I'm going to open the public hearing. And it is Is there anyone here who would like to speak regarding this application on Terrell Hill Road? Anybody in the hallway? Nope. Okay, so we will close the public hearing for now. Joanne, we have to talk about waivers?
Yes, there are 2 waivers. They are asking from the development regulations. One is to set the monuments at all corners. One of the corners is underwater, so they're not able to do that one. And the second is lot lines within 10%, 90 degrees on one of the corners. They can let you know which one that is. And there's no access from Terrell Hill, so they don't want to have to go through the wetland just to set the corner of that lot.
So let me be clear about the monument request. Does that mean they're going to set monuments at all corners except for the one that's under the water?
That was my
Because the
understanding.
waiver gives them, they don't have to set monuments at all corners. That's the waiver request.
My understanding was just that one
So
corner.
what is your statement regarding that?
It's only the ones that are in the water, but I think there is, there's actually 2 that are in the water.
Okay.
You want me to show you one?
No, I'll take your word for it, Eric. If you're going to make a statement that you cannot set 2 monuments in the water, that's acceptable to me.
Right.
And I'm sure the board will discuss it, but as long as it's not a blanket permit to set no monuments on the site.
Correct, it's not a blanket statement. The monuments we're looking at are on lot 18, lot 16. Down the front, there's a little triangle that zigzag there. It's all underwater. There's a couple corners there. There's also one more on the side, which we probably could get in if we went into the water on the side there. But it's primarily the 2 points that are in that little triangle up next to the road.
Just want to make sure that was clear. Board members will discuss these waiver requests now.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to move that we, on the basis of the applicant's presentation, with the usual finding that we grant the waivers for the reason that the usual reasons that.
The monument waiver or both?
Well, I think both, but we can discuss them separately.
Let's do them separately.
Let's do the monument waiver first, because.
I'll second that.
I do have let me ask, if I may, Eric, a question. I'm assuming with, call it modern surveying technology, that corner point could be located based on the monuments that are being placed in the normal course if necessary.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Jim has made a motion to grant the waiver for the setting of the 2 monuments that cannot be put into the water area. Otherwise, all monuments will be set. Any discussion on Jim's motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Lot lines within 10 degrees, 10% of 90 degrees. Now, was that lot, which lot line is that you're asking for? Could you show that on the map? Which lot line does that apply to?
It's only the lot line between lot 18 and 18-1 on Terrell Hill Road. It's the one that crosses the pond.
I see.
And we, technically we could go, at 90 degrees and come up and cross the pond and do another 90 degrees, come back again, but it just, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. There's no buildings there, there's no houses there, there's no setbacks or anything else, so it's really just we'll set a monument at the road, but to have it go back at 90 degrees doesn't make a lot of sense where the pond is there.
Any discussion on the waiver request for the lot line in discussion there that cuts to the center of the pond? Hey, Kimberly. Gail, would you mind? Thank you. Okay, we need a motion or we're not going anywhere.
I'll make a motion that we grant the waiver for make the usual findings because of the unusual aspect of having the Terrell Pond. There'd be no planning purpose served in this case by the requiring the 90 degree.
Dave will second.
Thank you, David. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so both waivers are granted. So I suppose we should have I guess we're going to have a straw poll on the request for the use of a single driveway as a shared driveway. So as per the applicant's request. And I'll just go around the table here and I'll ask each member to state their preference. David?
I have there's no conflicts in my mind. It's good design, and we should go with it.
Jim?
I have mixed feelings, but in this case, I think in the interest of minimizing impervious surface and considering that what we presume would be the type of property that's being built here, that we can accept it. There's some that are a little sketchier. This is not one of them.
Barbara?
No.
Kimberly, are you up for a vote on that?
No, I'm going to stay out of this one, sorry.
Okay. I am not in favor of a shared driveway. Phil?
Well, I think design-wise, I think it fits the location, what areas on the property. The only concern I have is there any type of agreement or anything that could be added, perhaps into the two deeds to prevent any possible or address any possible issues with conflicts between the two property owners. That's all.
Those documents will be, or are required and will be part of the conditions.
Well, then I don't have a problem with it as long as there's something like that, because civil matters, I don't want to see civil matters coming, people coming to the select board or to the town to try to get their issues settled down the road. I mean, it's a civil issue.
Mark, I'm going to ask you to weigh in. Or not? I know you haven't been privy to all the conversations.
No, I'm going to abstain on this one, sir.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like, what is the poll here, numbers?
3, yes.
Basically 3-3.
Basically 3-3.
Yeah.
So there's your answer.
David, Jim, and Phil, and then you and Barbara. That was it.
That was it, and then the other 2 abstained.
Yeah.
So it's a
Can
3-2.
If I could just add one thing, I used to take this road every day when I worked in Hooksett, and it's a very kind of road as you're driving. It's fast, and it's hilly, and it's curvy. And in my own personal opinion, just from traveling on that road every day, I think it would be safer to have only the one driveway cut for the 2 driveways versus 2 separate driveways and then a driveway close by for lot 16. So to me, it just makes sense safety-wise.
Mr. Chair, because I drive that road, I agree with that. It's fewer driveway cuts is probably better. But I recognize there are issues, but Phil,
So if the board's straw poll is 3-2 in favor of a shared driveway, that's the answer you asked for. If this is going to come back for a final plan, I'd like to see some kind of safety concerns built into a shared driveway. Obviously, 2 vehicles have to be able to pass simultaneously on a shared driveway. So the driveway has to be, at the very least, be wide enough for vehicles to pass on the shared portion. So this is the kind of upgraded plans we're going to need to see if that's what you're going to present.
Currently, the driveway is proposed to be 20 feet wide.
Right, yeah, it's already wide
Yeah.
Are you-
When the fire engine's coming in, the car's coming out.
Are you saying you'd like to see wider?
I don't want to tell them anything. I'm saying I want to see how they propose to safety for 2 vehicles to pass safely on the same driveway. I mean, if one of them's a fire engine, I'd like to know what their plans are.
20 feet is still pretty safe, I would think.
That's your opinion.
I mean, how wide is a fire truck and how wide is a car?
It's up to you to show us on a piece of paper.
I think it's already on there.
I got a plan here that has shared driveway. That's what I got. I don't have any dimensional information on it. So that's the answer you were looking for, Eric. How does the board want to proceed with this?
Mr. Chair, much as the applicant would like to get a conditional approval, I think there are too many conditions. I'd like to see a revised plan in front of us so that we know they've all been dealt with. So I move that we continue this. I assume the applicant could make these changes quickly. It's solely up to the applicant. I think we have a light agenda next meeting.
Yeah,
so
nothing right now.
Well, that's also inviting to keep it that way. If it's a conflict of interest, doesn't it? It's September. And I will be on vacation that week, so.
Perfect, Jim. All right, so Joanne, what is the recommendation that we continue this to?
Well, I was recommending October 13th, but I don't know how quickly our problem is that we have to have everything out to all of you a week prior to your meeting. So we need at least a week ourselves to take a look at everything. So that's why we've kind of decided that Scott and I think that it's not a good idea to continue something.
From one meeting to the next.
One meeting to the next, because it doesn't give everyone enough time.
Then I'll move that we continue with this.
What's our next meeting after October the 13th?
October 13th.
October 13th?
It's the second meeting.
That-
That is the
Yes.
second meeting, okay. So are you gonna make a motion, Jim?
I just did, yeah.
Motion to continue it to
The 13th.
10:13?
Second.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure can.
So, I have somebody that really wants to buy lot 15.
Well, they're gonna have to wait another couple weeks.
Is there any way that I can get conditional approval and deal with the 2 back lots
I don't see it.
at that meeting?
I don't see it. Oh, that's another meeting, that's a different subject. What
So
what
my
information
question
do we
is-
need for that? I wanna get this over with now. This is a last minute request for something else that wasn't on the agenda.
Well, I'm still concerned that, based on my motion, that we have many conditions, and I think it should not be staff's
Right.
role.
So we'll have to wait till October 13th
Yeah,
to finalize this
I
application.
understand the pressures of the market.
Okay, motion's been made, and did we vote on it?
No.
No, okay, so the motion's been made with too many conditions, and we need a revised plan for a conditional approval. So the motion is continued at 10:13. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion.
Abstain.
I'm abstaining.
Abstain. One abstention.
No, 2.
Two abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, new business. We have, let's see, we have 5 more applications to get through here, and it's 8 o'clock. So that means a little less than 30 minutes in application, 20 minutes in application as we start. And I'm going to push this meeting, and at the end of 20 minutes, if we're not going anywhere, we're going to continue you.
So, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, if I may,
Jim?
all we're doing tonight is we are accepting the applications for hearing, but we're not considering them on the merits. Is that correct?
Generally speaking, we have to review information we get, and to make a decision tonight could ultimately be a bad decision.
Well,
But some of these are very simple.
Well, we'll
lot
get to
line
them when we get to them, then. Sorry. I'm not giving anybody any pre-approved, we're gonna do it tonight answer. All right, map 5, lot 49, Joanne.
Okay, map 5, lot 49 is the Hawks Motorsport project on 186 Mast Road. And this is located in the commercial industrial flex zone.
This one right here.
So staff reviewed the plans and came up with their comments, which are included in the staff report. I have 4 items. I'm not recommending this to be complete, and the reasons are there are 4 items. There are 2 waivers that are mentioned as you dig through the plans that are not mentioned in the application. They're not mentioned in any of the paperwork, memos, or anything. It's just a note in the plan saying that they are asking for 2 waivers for landscaping to be included in in phase 2. So then look for a phase 2, and there's no mention of a phase 2 in the plan set. The second, that would be the second, no phase 2. The third is that Hawks Motorsports owned this land, but transferred the land, I believe it was in May of 2022, to another company, which they also own, called Nunick Holdings LLC. sorry if I'm not pronouncing
Yeah,
that
you got it.
correctly. And Munich Holdings LLC, from what I could tell, was owned by Mr. Hawkins and his brother. Or father, I'm sorry. I don't know who owns Hawks Motorsport, if it's the same people.
exact.
But it's signed Motorsport, it's signed Hawks Motorsport. There's no mention of Munich LLC. And I have to be really careful with that when I do this review because it's legal documents that we're looking at. And then the third is the architectural renderings were supposed to be included with the plan set, and all I have, or you probably have a copy yourself, are the little 8.5 by 11, and one of them is copied the wrong way, so some of the text is removed, and there's no details on there about materials or what the building is constructed with, the outer exterior of the building. There's no mention of the color of the siding. I mean, you can see it's brown, but I don't know if that's necessarily the end result. There's no mention of what type of roofing materials or anything. There's nothing. There's no text except for that cutoff text on the third page. So they're missing information, and as much as I hate to make this recommendation, no fault of the applicants at all, I believe it's not ready to be heard.
Board members. So your recommendation is not complete and it's not ready to be heard?
Yes, for those reasons. Now, you may not agree with me, but that's my recommendation.
Well, generally speaking, we get waiver information prior to the application being brought to the board.
Right, so they have another waiver, I think, in here, or maybe two, for other things. They have two waivers for other things. So it's either they have the waiver, they either abide by the regulation or they have the waiver request. So for the other two, they provided the waiver request, which is great. But for this waiver for the landscaping of certain items, there's nothing mentioned except if you dig through the notes and all of that for the plan itself. It was, in my opinion, it was sloppily done.
Okay. Board members want to weigh in on Joanne's opinion and accept her recommendation or move forward? I don't see any hands up. David?
I have an additional comment about not being complete, and it deals with the property fronting the lot, which is the town's rail corridor. On an abutting parcel, the rail corridor itself, or 10-foot wide path, because it is an as-built feature. That as-built feature is not shown on the plan, and it is within the appropriate distance to be shown. And so having that trail delineated would help us make a decision that the landscaping is not conflicting, or the drainage situations are not conflicting with the location of the trail. It would also help to clarify where the crossing of their driveway would be if the trail was shown.
Mr. Chair, do our regulations require that be shown?
As an as-built feature.
I'm asking the question.
I wouldn't be able to answer that. I'd have to defer to staff.
So you're saying, does it require that the trail be shown?
Yeah, the as-built features on the abutting properties.
We show...
Within 200 feet, yes. And there are some other things that were not shown that I didn't include as part of the completeness, but it did not identify the map and lot and the owners of the abutting properties on the plan itself, as on each lot. It doesn't even have the map and lot numbers. I didn't hold that against them for completeness, but I mentioned it under my comments.
I have a question. Is the new statute in effect for the 65 day? Did that go into effect on August 30, 20?
Yeah.
Yes.
What is the new statute?
The one, it shortens the time that we have and doesn't allow the select board to extend.
Discretion.
And it puts a burden on the applicant, on this board to provide findings. All of which means the time we have to consider this from acceptance to final action is shortened with much more burden put on this board.
Right.
And it seems to me that the applicants should not be putting a burden on us to accept a plan because of that statute that we might have previously, because we don't have the luxury of time. Right. And because we have to make findings both when we approve as well as disapprove. It requires us to really have our decision made in advance of the end of that clock so it can be reviewed. In the old days we could approve and march on, but on a complicated project, I'm envisioning we'd come up with a star decision on one meeting so that then we could have it reviewed by council or whoever for the next meeting. All of which means we cannot afford or put too much risk on this board to accept an application that's not fully baked when under the old statute we may have. And you can be unhappy with this board. I might think somebody else I might be unhappy with, but they're not here, and many members at least, to blame. But I think that's a consequence of that statute.
So the statute, in a nutshell, the statute puts us in a position where we have to act within a time frame.
Right.
And when the application is not complete, it puts us in an unfair position.
Yeah, before the applicant, well, had to go to the select board who could continue it. We don't have that time anymore. Okay.
Because 65 days starts immediately.
Yeah, it does upon acceptance.
When the application is found.
Yeah. Right.
So based on the planning director's recommendation, how does this board want to proceed?
I'm going to...
Do we have a chance to refute at this point? Or
No, you're not being recognized right now, Jason. Thank you.
I'm recognizing this material's before us and we can review it. I don't think we can accept this.
Jason asked me today, should he come, should he not come? And I said, I don't know if the board will agree with me or not. So obviously I told him to come. I said, they may not accept it, but allow you to do a quick overview of what you're proposing.
No, we're not going to do any overviews until it's all together. I'm not going to waste our time and their time. But I will recognize Jason for 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes if you'd like to say something. We'd like to hear you.
Sure, thank you. Jason Hill with TF Moran. I'm here with Austin Hawk, the proposed applicant. Regarding the waivers, Joanne had mentioned I filed for 2 of them. The 2 that were on the landscaping plan to sections 2.3A and B. I withdraw the first waiver request from 2.3A as there's no proposed parking for phase 1 as such. Proposed interior landscaping is not applicable. I did submit and I typed out a copy to bring to me, but I had to handwrite a request for a waiver to section 2.3B to put in the proposed interior parking lot or the interior landscaping during phase 2 and not phase 1. The reason being, basically, the first phase of this project, which I'll just briefly introduce you with, if you're familiar with the site, is to propose a small overflow storage for trailers only, no retail sale. Roughly a 15,000 to 17,000 foot gravel area in this proximity that's shown on this plan, and as part of your package you should have the phase 1 layout, phase 1 landscaping, phase 1 grading plan. So we're proposing to build basically an overflow storage yard here. Most of the phase 2 plantings, which is what the waiver request is based on, are like in the perimeter of the site in remote areas. The question of whether or not the waiver is even applicable is questionable, but I threw it in there as to cover that item. So I just wanted to address the waiver conditions. And I do note I just provided to Joanne, so you're just getting it now. Regarding the application, the abutters were done via Goffstown Geographic Information System, which is common for how we do
the abutters and the owners listing at the time of the application filing, which was actually originally in March, but I think was subsequently updated. It listed the property owner as Hawks Motorsports as it appears on the application. I understand that's not true, but the source of the information on the application that was submitted to the town in March was Hawks Motors. That's actually when we submitted everything in March. So that was actually true at that point in time, just to address that comment. Sorry, Joanne.
No, go ahead.
No, we're not gonna debate things.
This is a long,
This is his chance
drawn
to
out,
make a
yeah.
rebuttal statement, and that's
We
what
have
we're
been
doing.
at this for a while. We've gone to the zoning board to get some variances for the frontage. This is somewhat of a unique property because it doesn't have direct frontage. I'd like, the key that I need to, if there's any feedback I can receive tonight is related to comments with a detention pond that we're proposing in the rail trail right-of-way, a portion of. And we had met with the Friends of the Rail Trail who had supported our request and are working with them to do enhancements in the right-of-way that would benefit the rail trail group, including landscaping, an agreement to provide labor to install the materials during the construction. So the DPW and planning are not supporting this. The select board had no negative opinion on it. They forwarded it to the planning board. This is a critical item that results to future submittals to the town, and I'd like, if an opinion can be formed at this point on the acceptance of this easement and this drainage structure being a portion of the right-of-way, that would be good direction for me, leaving this hearing, coming back to you in future hearings, and not getting behind the 8 ball, so to speak. But I think, in summary, that's the biggest issue with this project at its current infancy state. And this is a unique parcel because of the nature of the parcel. I haven't done a lot of description, but it's flat down by the road. It's rocky up in the back, similar to the car wash site. So the building footprint's really limited, and the sandy soils are really right down along the road for the positive drainage. So there's a couple of unique things about this site which I'd like to introduce as facts to support our request, which includes we have a wide right-of-way from Mass Road, which isn't really that unique because that's a state highway. The rail trail right-of-way is 60 feet plus wide along our frontage, so we're already set back 100 so feet from the edge of the street. The site conditions, including the topography and ledge, are such that to minimize the excessive cuts and fills and disturbance of that sloped area, and as well as for display purposes, having the equipment in a display area is close to the road, and also allowing Austin to balance his cuts and fills and minimize blasting potential, not blasting potential.
You're running close to 5 minutes,
Yes,
Jason.
so those are unique things I'd like to introduce to the record to support our request to build the system in the right-of-way. And we would have a maintenance agreement developed in the future, obvious things. But I'm looking for, and if it's too mature, we need to give this more daylight at a future hearing. But I'd like to have some type of a direction on the general thought of the board on regarding this specific matter, if that's possible, Mr. Chair.
Any board members want to make comment? Go ahead, Dave.
I believe Jason is right. The board should give him guidance for the location of this drainage retention pond, and I think the town engineer has comments in that regard too.
Jim?
Well, my concern is we're getting into a substantive matter.
Yeah, we're getting substantive.
And I want to hear from the town before we give that guidance, because anything before we hear that would be premature.
Yes, the only concern that I have, if we accept any information, if we make any kind of a decision on something that we haven't accepted, that my concern is that technically we may have accepted it and the 60-day clock has started. That's the only concern that I have.
We'll waive the clock.
You can't.
I think the only way we could do it is if it's possible to change this from a regular meeting to a
conceptual. We've done that by.
Already.
Well, I'm just bringing that point up. That's my concern.
If I may, Mr. My concern, I understand Jason would like some guidance. I'm not ready to give that until we've had a more thorough discussion on this.
Okay.
Because
So do I have a motion for a continuation? Or do I have a motion to find it incomplete?
Well, we can either not find it, or we can, I think maybe it's in the interest of the applicant to request that we continue this, so we don't find against it. But
That's fine with
rather
me.
that we
That's my
continue it.
preference.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue it to the 22nd
Like,
if Jason could get me these items that I've
Yeah,
mentioned?
there is actually no procedure for accepting such continuance,
Yeah,
but
how
I'm,
do we continue
but I'm
this?
assuming the
Something
applicant is
we're-
requesting that we do that on that
And,
basis. I'll accept the applicant's request to continue to, and then somebody can.
Will you
tell
be
me-
ready by the 22nd?
And those items, Joanne, could you either tell me again?
Yeah, I can email them
We
to
can
you.
discuss. It sounded reasonable, as paperwork, although I was kind of, Dave's point, I kind of missed some of what he was getting at regarding your incompleteness
Well, the-
aspect. Because I submitted a stamped existing conditions plan with Mike Dahlberg, stamp on it.
All right, we're done. Joanne, is the 22nd going to provide them with enough time to submit paperwork to you to get to us?
That's up to him.
And when does it have to be submitted by? Tell him.
I can tell him, well, I have to send it out to you by the Thursday prior to the 22nd. I don't have my calendar in front of me.
Joanne, there's 43 comments on here.
But,
That's a lot.
oh no, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the completeness-ish items.
Okay,
Yes.
but then if we end up discussing it, it still has 43 comments at
Yeah,
this point.
we won't approve
That
it.
would be, 9/15 would be a week prior.
9:15? So I would need it, Scott, would we need it by the Thursday prior to that?
I mean,
That's like
I don't-
this week.
I don't think much
Yeah,
is gonna
you
change
can't
for
do
me
it, you
to
can't.
It's too
We
fast.
run
Monday?
into it that it's like
Monday?
the next day.
Yeah, it's
that
too
you-
Because there are 4 items, which,
If it really is 2 weeks
it's
from now, you
really
can't do it.
easy items,
No, I
but
looked
you
at
need to
them
get
for-
them
trying
to
to
us
find
so
the
that we can
comments.
update
Oh,
the
on here?
comments.
Yeah.
It would be tomorrow, you can't do it.
Oh, all back here.
So we're going to have to move them to the
Yeah, it'd be
13th.
pretty
Planning comments.
All right, I
fast.
think the
Okay.
13th agenda,
Yeah, done.
I think there's
possibly
39,
it's getting quite large.
24.
Well, there's 2 on there now.
What is this?
There's
Three,
2
we just
plus
put
Okay, well-
strategic.
Cyril Hill?
No, yeah, we just put zero.
But this is just an acceptance hearing when we.
Right.
come to-
Okay.
Yeah, we can accept it and continue it. if we
That's
need it.
all it is, okay, completeness only. And that would be, I'm calling it Nunick.
Yeah, get all that other
So
paperwork
what's the
squared away.
deadlines you just submitted, the dates that we just,
I can send everything to
But
you.
October 13th is the meeting you're being
Not tomorrow.
continued to.
No,
by
okay.
noon?
No, no?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss
No,
these
what?
matters, and we'll have
So
everything.
what is this applicant requesting? October 13th?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've made that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made to grant the request from Jason Hill to continue this meeting to 10/13 of '22 by Jim and seconded by Barbara. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Okay, we'll see you on the 13th.
Thank you for your
Jason,
time.
thank you.
Joanne, when you send out stuff for that, will you remind us that materials in this packet? Because
Sure.
I don't remember from the meeting.
Yeah, we need to be reminded to bring like Carroll Hill information and bring that because,
I'm assuming we remember anything.
okay, the next application is map 5, lot 8990, 92A. Joanne?
Okay, excuse me. This is an application between Randall and Kimberly Karen and Ian and Caitlin Tripp. The address is 112 Wallace Road. And this concerns lots, map 5, lots 90, 89, and 92. I don't know if this has ever been before the board, but the Karens own 2 lots. I believe they obtained them from the town at one point in time.
One of the lots.
One of the lots. And they, at some point, they took the town to court, and there was a hearing about whether or not they would have access to their, not the town, I'm sorry, they took the property owners I'm sorry, they took the property owners to court so that they could obtain access to their lots. And one of the lots is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Karen, and the other lot is owned by Mrs. Karen. So they were never merged together. So two separate ownerships. So to make a long story short, they had a court decision that said that they did have the right to access their property. They had to come up with a way of obtaining access. They provided the DPW department with a driveway, which was not exactly the way it had been previously designed, but they came up with something that everyone agreed to. And the Trips have signed off on the application. So they're here tonight to solidify the court decision. I'm sure Mr. Karen can explain this a lot better than I can, because this has been around for a long, long time. But this approval by the town of the conditional use permit would allow them to obtain the driveway permit. Scott's staring at me. I don't know this whole story. That they would be able to obtain the driveway permit. However, there's still steps to follow with the zoning board of adjustment and the select board in order for them to actually build anything on these two lots. So their first step is with the planning board, and they are here for a conditional use permit to permit a second driveway on a lot having 193 feet of frontage, where 200 is required. And they are also here, whereas they have 250 feet, I'm sorry, 250 feet is required because they're asking for two driveways. And then another conditional use permit to allow for two driveways that do not meet the 40-foot separation. And then a waiver from Appendix A, which is the regulation that they require to have a permit for their driveway, but it has to be within 10 feet of the side property line. So they don't meet any of those items, those regulations. They have 6 feet to the property line rather than 10. So they're here to get those approvals this evening, and if so, then we will move on to the zoning board. I believe there is an attorney present representing the Karens, if you want to come forward.
We're
Jim
not-
Solomon, I
We're not-
tried the case.
We're not ready to hear from you, sir, yet. Just long as if you're here, then we just want to recognize that you're here, because we have to bring you up to the table. So could you just hang on a second, sir? Thank you. Is this property the one that there's an existing house, and this driveway that we see sketched in on our plan came through the driveway originally, Joanne?
Yes.
And extended up through?
Correct.
I know the property.
And when this all started, there were different abutters at the time.
Different owners at the time,
Yes.
too.
So it's been quite a long time.
All right. I just wanted to make sure I knew where this property was.
So is the application complete? Are we gonna make that?
I'm getting there, Jim. We haven't even got past the end of Joanne's
It is
spiel yet.
complete, and they're asking for one waiver, which is the 10-foot separation between the driveway and the side property line.
And so Jim, I have another question, but if, Jim, you want to make the motion for the completeness, I'd be happy to.
Yeah,
accept it.
based on Joanne's statement, I find that, we find the application is complete and accept it, subject to granting the waiver after reviewing it on the merits.
And regional impact, Jim?
And find there's no regional impact.
Anybody want to second Jim's motion?
I'll second it.
Phil? Okay, now we have a motion to find this application complete and ready to review. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. So Joanne, just to be clear, what exactly is the applicant here for us tonight to get approval for?
So they're here tonight to do the waiver for the 10 feet
Okay.
separation.
Yep.
And 2 conditional use permits. One is for the 250 feet required for the 2 driveways off of Wallace Road.
Okay.
Because they only have 193 feet.
Okay.
And the other one is the 40 separation between driveways.
Okay.
The Trips will have their own driveway, and the Karens will have a separate shared driveway for their two lots.
And this was previously approved as a single driveway for all three parcels, right? Didn't this go through an approval process?
No, it went to court,
This is a court case.
yes.
Right.
Was it, and it was a civil issue? It wasn't, had
It
nothing to
was
do
a
with the town?
civil issue,
Okay.
yes.
And this is the court's answer to do what they're doing here? Or is this their answer to do what they're doing?
It's the court's answer.
Okay, just want to make sure I know where all the lines are.
Right.
Thank you. Any board members have any other questions?
Do we have a? I haven't had a chance to read the decision, no.
Jim, can I move on, or do you have something?
No, I just haven't had a chance to read the court decision, so
Okay.
fill in the blanks.
So at this point, I'll ask the applicant to identify themselves, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Joe Maynard. I'm with Benchmark Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the Karen family on the application for these couple of lots. I can go into a little bit of history here and explain. There are some missing gaps here that I can fill in.
Make them short.
Okay. The two lots that we're talking about, they were both created in 1941. Lot 89, map 5, lot 89, was actually taken by the town of Goffstown for unpaid taxes. In 2002, lot 89 was actually put up for sale by the town by a sealed bid, with the Karens having the winning offer. Work did commence back in 2003 on a driveway construction of this. At that time, the property that the easement is through was owned by a gentleman, the family was the Busted family. The easement description was very vague. It just said that they had the right-of-way up the southerly side of the lot. Being that the existing house and driveway sit toward the southerly side of the lot, we had meetings with the Busted family. They had asked us to try and move the driveway to the other side of the property. At that time, we permitted dredge and fills, we went to the zoning board, we dealt with the fire department, we had an approval to build the driveway up to these lots. In the 9th hour, when it came time for that documents to be signed to transfer the easement to the other side, everything kind of fell apart with the Busteds. They had other envisions, and therefore the Karens brought this to court. The court decision, it was about 4 years of going through the court case. It was a 5-day trial. The Busteds actually ended up losing in this. They appealed it to New Hampshire Supreme Court. New Hampshire Supreme Court upheld the lower court's decision. Ultimately, what the courts did is they gave the Karens property, and at the time the other property up there was owned by a gentleman by the name of Peter Bailey. They gave them half of the Busted lot in order to make a driveway work to their properties. That's how the court decree is written. We can use half of the Busted property. Right after the appeals were done, the Busted family sold their lot abruptly. Somebody else bought it, and then it was sold again to the Tripp family. After that court decision, we went and re-permitted the entire dredge and fill along the southerly side of the lot. Had all permits for that. Some discussion happened after those permits came into play, because under a dredge and fill, you're not supposed to do a dredge and fill within 20 feet of a lot line without a abutter's cooperation. The abutter ended up cooperating. We ended up reapplying to the state of New Hampshire for a new dredge and fill permit to put that driveway closer than that 20-foot setback to that lot line to get the driveway some more away from the existing house that is burdened by the easement. All of those permits are still valid until December of this year. Some of the work has been started. It's taken the Karens family quite a bit to recover from the lengthy court cost and the time from that. So then we started this process, I think, last year to try and figure out what the town is going to require now in order for them to be able to get building permits for this. As they were discussing this with the Bailey, who owned the other lot up there, he had indicated to them that he'd be willing to sell them the lot. Mrs. Karen bought that separately, and so therefore what we're trying to do here tonight is we're creating the driveway to these two properties per the court decree. We're trying to be conscientious of the people that have the house that's right there, and we're trying to give them their own driveway It just gets to be very complex when you have 3 houses off a driveway, especially when they're parking in the middle of it and you're trying to get up to the back end of the lot. So that's why we're here. We're trying to work this out, make a separate driveway for them, and then get this driveway to these 2 properties.
Thank you, Joe. Board members have any questions for Joe?
Messy things happen.
Yep, okay.
I just wanted to say one thing. I did speak with the town attorney about this one yesterday. He has been working with the Karen's attorney, and he said he's all set with everything.
Okay. Would anyone else like to be recognized from the Karen family group down there before we start the public hearing, which will be in a minute?
I think Mr.
Do you have anything else you want to add at this time? Okay. So the board members have any questions for Joe at this time? Go ahead, Ken.
You mentioned that the wetlands got re-permitted, but the copies we only have are the ones from 2012.
Yeah, what happened is a dredge and fill permit's good for 5 years, and you can ask for an extension for an additional 5 years. So a request was put in, and we were granted an extension until December of 2022. So the dredge and fills, again, the bulk of them were completed, but some of the grading has changed a little bit based upon the new fire department requirements. When we did the original driveway, it was a 12% grade. Now it's a 10% grade. And so some of the driveway ends up in more of a fill, but not at the wetland areas. All the wetland impacts remain exactly the same as what was permitted. There was a culvert put in to get up to the top of the property. One of the culverts is not at the right elevation, so it has to get reset. They're planning on doing that work if we can get this resolved shortly here, because I want it stabilized before winter. So.
Okay. All right. Anybody else, any other board members at this time? You weighing in, Scott, or are you good for now?
I can weigh in a little.
As long as it's a little.
Eric in our office has been working extensively with the Karens, and DPW's pretty good with these plans. We don't have any further comment on them. He's already made adjustments to DPW comments. So we just had a couple conditions, and I think one thing that hasn't really been explained well tonight is that I believe the driveway permit they're currently applying for is not for residential use, correct? It's because you haven't had zoning board approval yet for the lack of frontage to build up there. So you can't apply for, or we can't accept a permit or issue a permit, I'm sorry, because you don't have zoning board approval to build up there yet. So it would be for vehicular access only is the permit you'd be going for. And then once you get the zoning board approval, then you come in for a re-app, which is just a modification that's good for the residential purpose. So I just wanted to explain that because I don't think it was...
Joe, clear on that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's understood.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So at this time, we're going to, since no other board member has any comments or questions, we're going to open a public hearing. So Joe, if anybody wants to speak, I'll ask you to clear the table for them.
Yep.
So if you come up to the table, just please identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, Keith Allard, 118 Walsh Road. I bought 2 of those properties. I'm the one that is going to have less than a 10-foot set from my property line for the new driveway. I fully understand wanting to have 2 separate driveways. My concern is, one, they said that I was amenable to the waiver for 20 feet for the wetlands. Never did I agree to that. I have no documentation to that. I've also looked at the site plan that was filed with the town. It does not tell me where along that driveway they want to be only 6 feet off my property line rather than the 10. My other concern is we're putting 3 driveways, because my driveway is that's on the north side of my property, where they're putting all these on the south side of the property. So you got 3 driveways that are right there. You have several very large trees right along that whole area as well. So I have concerns about safety, having 3 driveways there. I already have some obstruction when I back out of my driveway. So I'd like to have a chance, I'd like them to address that, see if we come up with an amenable way to make sure that my line of sight is taken care of during this whole process. And And I just would like to know where they want to have 6 feet away from my property line. Because I pretty much, some of my landscaping goes within 10 feet of my property line on that side.
Okay? So we'll bring that up.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak at the public hearing portion of that business tonight?
So, I'm from the 106 Wallace Road.
Could you sit down and state your name for the record, sir?
Sure. Name's Charles Camo. I live on lot 91, which is 106 Wallace.
I didn't hear your name.
Charles Camo.
Could you spell the last name, please?
Comeau.
And your address, sir?
106 Wallace Road, that's
Thank
on
you.
lot 91.
Go ahead.
So, when I moved onto the property, it was after a lot of these disputes had happened. I was given some plans and told that there was agreements for light and noise for the driveway with 25 evergreens being put in. And I guess originally the driveway was supposed to go along my property line, but it's my understanding now goes on the opposite side of the property, is that correct?
It's where they're showing it on their plan. It's above your property. It's on the high side of your property. I see your name right here.
Okay.
It's on the
Complete
opposite
opposite
side.
side.
He's correct in what he just said.
Okay.
Okay, so the driveway is no longer abutting the property line on my side?
Not according to this plan.
Not according to
Okay,
this.
because I had some concerns only because I was told there was an agreement for 25 evergreen trees for light and noise, but it doesn't seem to be a problem. It's going to be on the other side of the property.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
That was my only concern.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll close public hearing for now. All right, board members.
Mr. Chair, I understand, well, as I said, I have not read the court case yet, but I understand the complicated nature of this, but we are granting, although this historical basis is an unusual remedy, and I'm a little concerned where we have questions from an abutter that, that haven't been addressed through, grant this at this hearing. And we've accepted it, but to go beyond that, unless those concerns can be addressed, I guess I'm unwilling to do that.
Well, to go to Scott's comment about they don't even have permission from the zoning board to do this yet. And generally speaking, don't we require zoning board decisions prior to us making decisions?
Well, the order of doing this is a little confusing, but maybe Joanne can explain it again.
The order of going here first was something that Derek had recommended. And then he said if this is approved, then the next step would be the zoning board, and then the next step would be the select board. And that's the order he wanted to follow.
But that's not how we've done it here in the past.
I think this is an unusual situation because there was a court case involved with this. It wasn't your typical application.
Town was not a party to that court case, though, correct?
They were not, no. That's correct.
So, shall we move forward, or shall we kick it back to zoning?
Well, I don't object to making a decision, and then we can make it subject to zoning because of the unusual nature of this. Somebody has to go first. In this case, it could be us with a condition that it's subject to ZBA approval. Are we prepared to make a decision on the merits is the question.
Can I just say one more thing? I read this this is Derek's comments under zoning. If the planning board approves the CU permit, Mr. Karen needs to submit a building permit application so that would then be denied. And at that point, he could apply to the zoning board for relief under section 15.3.5, where then the zoning board would grant, he calls it a special exception, but it's not your typical special exception. It falls under New Hampshire RSA 674-41, which is granting relief. It's not a variance, it's not a regular special exception. granting relief.
But don't they also, that's a statutory frontage requirement, but there's also a zoning requirement of frontage. They need a variance from that as well, correct?
No, not according to the way it was explained here.
Oh, I suggest.
We're really bogging down here and we're running out of
Yeah,
time. So let's either get this moving or we're gonna table it.
This is a different, there's another RSA that covers lots with no frontage, so he's
That's
not,
right.
it's
But
not.
that doesn't replace, that sits on top of zoning, but doesn't replace zoning.
Correct, but it's not the same as just like getting a variance, so as part of that process, the select board has to approve it as well.
I understand, yeah.
Okay. So are you saying,
To Tim's comment, I think they still need a variance as well, but because we have zoning as well as the statutory frontage requirement. But that's not our issue. Our issue is, do we grant the conditional use permits? Do we have enough information?
Generally speaking, we like to have the zoning variance in hand before we start granting permission, because then we're gonna handcuff ourselves in the future if the zoning board of adjustment denies for some
But
reason.
we can make it subject to, make that a condition of approval. So I think, given the unusual nature of this, we could. But generally, we don't.
And we can address Mr. Allard's comments by requiring that sightlines be improved to his satisfaction, or to DPW's satisfaction at the very least, because they have to meet a 200-foot sightline frontage, right, for the road?
Well, it sounds like he was talking about his own driveway sightline,
Right.
not the proposed driveway.
Oh, okay. I thought that this driveway was gonna interfere with.
You raised two substantive issues. One is that, and the second is the setback from the lot line.
Yeah, that is a substantive issue, and that would have to be, we'd have to require them to field stake the driveway for him to see where it's gonna go or something.
Well, or require that it be 10 feet, if that's the agreement. Which we could do, we could make that a condition.
And to ask Joe the question, Joe, what is the issue with making the 10-foot setback requirement? You can't move the driveway over another 4 feet and make the driveway work?
What happens is it starts to impinge upon the driveway that would go to the Tripp family. So when you start trying to do that, there's a grade change in there because again, we have to start climbing sooner with this new driveway. And I gotta be able to get the side slopes to work before the driveway that would be constructed to the Tripp family. So I'm kind of up against.
I can see a retaining wall there holding the driveway up if you had to put a retaining wall in. I mean, you're looking for an exception when it seems construction possible to build a driveway without the request for the 10-foot setback requirement.
And again, if that's something the board feels needs to be done in order for me to move forward, I'd accept it and we'll figure some way around it.
I'm just saying.
Yep.
Because I really would like to take this somewhere tonight other than nowhere.
I would appreciate that also.
So, Jim, if somebody's got to go first, what's wrong with us going first?
If we were to make a motion, it would be because of the background of this, that we could find that the conditions for granting a conditional use permit are met, subject to the proposed road being moved so it's at least 10 feet from the lot line with whatever lot that is.
So that would eliminate the waiver request.
Eliminate one of them.
There's one waiver request and CUP requests. 2 conditional use permit requests and 1 waiver request. So if Joe thinks he can build a driveway and eliminate the waiver request, that's one less thing we have to take care of.
Okay.
The other thing is the frontage. The 193 where 250 is required for 2 driveways, and the separation between the 2 at 40 feet being required.
And I'm going to move because of the historical nature of this, that we can find that condition is that we may grant a CUP for that.
So it goes back to you, Joe. Are you willing to withdraw your request for the 10-foot sideline?
Yes.
Okay, so that's out of here. Continue, CUP request. It says you do not meet the 40-foot separation. Can you tell us what the separation is, Joe?
26 feet.
26, thank you.
That's on the lot itself.
Yeah, it's measured at the right-of-way line according to your definition. So that's the distance between the 2 driveways at the right-of-way.
What's the distance, if I can ask? Distance to Mr. Allard's driveway?
Good question. I know a lot about our lot, but I gotta look at it to see where his falls in relationship to this.
Isn't that the question, are we moving the 6 feet or 4 feet further?
The 6 feet is not at the road junction, the 6 feet is along the lot line, so that doesn't affect where.
Right, I have to put a steeper curve in.
Right, that doesn't
and-
affect the road cut.
Yeah. Just looking at this, the Allard driveway appears to me to be about 50 feet to the south of our proposed driveway.
So that does not need a 40-foot separation.
Well, I
condition.
don't, what is the about based on?
I'm eyeballing this, but
Because,
if you-
yeah, because I don't see Mr. Allard's lot even identified on this plan as compared.
It actually is.
It's,
It's
where
right
is it? I can't find it.
in the middle of the long driveway
It's
before it
upside down.
angles up.
Mr. Manor,
Please, Dave.
I know you have a statement that says the
Oh, it's
scale
in-
is
it's in
1
the
inch
middle
to
of all
40,
the
but we
plan
also typically
comments.
see a bar scale on the plans. And there's no bar scale. Because we have different sizes.
Yeah, I just.
I got you. So at the right-of-way line, the distance between the edge of our driveway and the Allard driveway measures 70 feet.
Okay.
Good. Board members, do we have any other comments we have to consider before we move forward? Zoning has no comment, police none. DPW engineer has a few comments.
13 comments.
Have you reviewed the comments with DPW, Joe?
I have not, but Mr. Karen has, and he's here tonight. So I don't think there was anything that he said gave him any heartburn.
Scott, are you on board with that statement?
Yes,
It's-
Eric and I met with Mr. Karen.
And you worked out,
a while
you can
back.
work things
Yeah,
out?
they're mostly just kind of like it's a waiver of liability, the maintenance agreement, and then fire turnaround.
And you are aware of the fire department's comments?
Yep, yeah, we incorporated that into the design.
So the radius turning off of Wallace Road has to accommodate fire apparatus?
Yep.
Okay, and it's an NFPA required driveway, which is 20 feet wide, 16-foot weather, the whole, you know the whole thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll renew my motion that the, find that the conditions for the granting the conditional use permits are met with the conditions for approval set forth in pages 25 through 20, whatever it is, 27, plus the condition that the driveway be moved at least 10 feet from the lot line with.
When he's already withdrew his waiver request, he'll have to meet that requirement anyway.
Well, okay, I just want to make sure it's expressed that we,
Okay.
because that was a major issue. So, just can you.
Can you add about adding the scale bar?
Yeah, add the scale bar, and any other plan detail that's required by our regulations to be approved by our planning director. Now, I guess the question is, to what extent do we make this conditioned upon the required approvals by the zoning board under the zoning ordinance in RSA 67441?
So approval by the ZBA and the select board?
Yes.
Both of them? Okay, Jim's made a motion to grant the conditional use permits, 1, section 7.4.2, and 2, 7.4.2, with noted conditions, and the additional conditions were added tonight, and this is subject to approval by the ZBA and the select board. Is that correct, Jim?
Correct.
And Jim Raymond made the motion, who seconded it?
Barbara, do you have a question?
I'll second it.
All right, I'll hold on.
I just want to say for the record that the only reason I'm going along with this at this point is because there's been a court decision in regards to the access, providing the access, because I think it's been pointed out on the record that this is not our normal process, and I'm not doing this with any sort of precedent. This is a very unusual circumstance, and I'm understanding that the abutters comments, so that a waiver is not needed, are being taken into account, and, you know.
My initial, my initial draft motion incorporated the reference to the court case, so I want that part of this motion.
So you're referencing the court case as well as part of the motion?
Yeah, because of the court case and unusual
So Barbara, would you accept the amended
Yes, that's fine.
motion? Okay, any discussion on the motion and all its parts? Okay, all those in favor of granting the conditional use permits 1 and 2, say, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I didn't think I'd ever see another Judge Mangones case with it. I nearly fell off my chair when I saw
Chair, I
the
just
Judge
wanted to
Mangones.
point out-
copies in case you needed them.
No, one was enough.
Mr. Chair, I just want to add in the record too for Gail that Eric wrote a 4-page, very detailed email, and that is above and beyond the call of our town services, and they did a really good job on that.
Right, and he's been working on that for a long time.
Okay, Joanne, our next application is map 21, lots 98 and 99.
Okay, so we have an application for the LaFond Family Living Trust. This is located on 495 Mast Road and Oak Lane. Part of the land is zoned Small Business Residential District 2, and the back portion is zoned Residential 2. So the applicant owns this one lot, but the town has this down as a 2-lot subdivision and has shown it that way for several years. There had been previously, back in the 70s, early 70s, there was a right-of-way that went with 25 feet in width, that went in the middle of the center of this lot, and then had a turnaround, and it was basically to access, it was used by public service to access their poles. They released that right-of-way back in 1974, I believe it was, or 75. And we do have a copy of the paperwork for that. So the applicant would now like to actually divide the property into 2 lots versus just paying taxes on 2 lots. And Craig is here from Bedford Design to go over everything, but basically it is complete, and we recommend that it has no regional impact. They are asking for 1 waiver, which is the requirement to provide the 60 feet by 70 feet building rectangle, which they are not able to do on the future lot, which is, I'm not sure if it's 98 or 99 based on these labels, but
98 is the empty
98.
lot right now.
Okay, so 98. And other than that, the application is complete.
Do I, may I ask a question, Tim?
Yes, please.
Do these lots as proposed comply with zoning?
Yes, but I have one question on that. So the frontage in our zoning and our development regulations, the definition says the distance along a lot line dividing a lot from either a public highway or a road shown on a subdivision plan approved by the planning board pursuant to the subdivision regulations. So both of these lots have frontage. However, you have to combine, they're fronting 2 streets. You have to combine both frontages in order to give them the proper frontage altogether, and I don't think that's ever been an issue.
But if you look at our definition of frontage, which you did 2 meetings ago, I thought it was, you didn't get to combine, you had to pick which your frontage was.
And I believe that's only for the access. You have to have access off of a road, but you don't have to have the proper frontage off that road. You can access it without having the ample frontage for that access.
But you need frontage along a road?
Both properties have 100 feet on one road or the other, so 99 has 112 feet on Mass Road.
Okay.
And then 98, it looks like it only has 98 feet, but there's two bounds shown here, 98.48, and then another 1.52 feet between the.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's the Mass Road
So
side.
they both have the frontage they need.
Okay.
It's just 98's frontage is technically on Oak Lane, and you can kind of see the way they did their offsets, their setbacks, that they're using as their frontage.
Okay, so the existing house is accessed from a circular drive off of Mass Road. But this is just my recommendation. I recommend that they access the new lot off of Oak Lane because the garage would most likely be, you know, because they don't have the ample width, the garage would most likely, or could likely face Oak Lane, and they could come in straight from Oak Lane into the garage.
Well, the only thing I can see, Joanne, is because of the public service right-of-way there.
Well, that's been deleted, or not deleted, but extinguished by paperwork that we have on file.
So that's a buildable area now?
Yes,
Okay, well, that makes a difference.
yeah. So, that's all I have to say.
Mr. Chair, I move that we, subject to granting the waiver request, we find this is complete and has no regional impact, and accept it.
Okay, second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Applicant, excuse me, board members' questions for Joanne, as we continue our questions for Joanne?
I guess I have a question.
Go ahead.
Why can't we get the 60 by 70 rectangle on there? I missed that.
I believe because the lot is not wide enough.
Can't rectangles go long ways?
The rectangle can turn.
Yeah, rectangles turn on their axis and they could fit on there.
Yeah, says no. It won't fit.
Okay.
There's 53 feet.
Wait a second, Craig, I'll recognize you in a second. So we'll let the applicant speak to that when we recognize
Okay,
the applicant.
thank you.
Any other questions from board members?
It should be on his waiver request.
Waiver request is for
I know, I have it on paper.
the rectangle, right?
Right.
Okay.
6C2. Oh, he just says C
It's
attached.
almost,
The parcel, 25 feet right-of-way was released. These lots meet the buildable area requirements of 5,500 square feet. Lot 98 has over
Oh, I can
5,400. However, the buildable area is only 52 feet wide.
I can see why, Kimberly. Because it's 15-foot setback, so that's 30 feet. You take 30 feet from 83 and you're left with less than 60 feet, so the rectangle doesn't fit inside the buildable area.
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha, thank you.
All right, so we're all set. We'll invite the applicants to identify themselves and speak.
Good evening, I'm Craig Francisco.
Craig Francisco.
Yes, I'm Craig Francisco at Bedford Design, and this is Phil LaFawn, the owner. You've got me answer, you did my whole presentation for me, so.
I want to get out of here.
I'll be brief, so everybody else can go.
Tim gets up early, we're gonna get out of here.
I can read a map.
Great, I knew that.
And what's Mr. LaFawn's first name?
Philip.
Philip?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any
Okay,
questions?
so make your presentation that I didn't make, Craig.
I think you made it.
Okay.
Mr. LaFawn was trying, the way he thought he owned 2 lots, he was wanting to do a lot line adjustment. We went and talked about it, started looking at it and realized it wasn't a lot line adjustment, it's a subdivision. Because in 74, the assessor kind of messed up, we won't go into that because you already knew that. So this is the lot line we're proposing, so he can get his daughter to live next door. And as you already figured out, there's only 53 feet, because this lot line is 16 feet from the house. Give me an extra foot, and that leaves
7 feet short.
Good.
Okay, so what do we actually ask for this evening? Are we asking for a subdivision approval, or are we asking just for a waiver for the...
Subdivision approval.
But first,
They
let's
need a
find the
waiver and it needs to be found complete.
which we've done, but.
We already
But
did that.
found the complete,
But
right?
But it-
wait to grant the waiver in order before you.
There needs a waiver, but the ultimate request is for a subdivision,
Okay.
two-lot subdivision.
All right, so before we act on anything, does anybody else have any questions before I open the public hearing? You'll be, 1 second, sir.
I will have to play ribbons now.
All right, so we're going to open the public hearing. You gentlemen are going to vacate your chairs. Sir, identify yourself for the record, please.
Andy DeZonier.
Could you tell me your name again?
Andy DeSolner.
Andy.
DESULNIER.
Did you get that?
And, Mike Wilson.
He's on Oak Lane.
7 Oak Lane.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
When
Andy?
when this road was built, according to the specification for the town of Goffstown, and then they built it on our land, and then we had to turn it to Goffstown. But there is a section of land in here where that little triangle is, with the dotted line. That's my land.
Are you speaking about something in the turnaround area or on this particular site?
Just before the turnaround, there was a dotted line. When they built the street, they didn't follow the street lot. Perhaps.
So does...
Is that the
Right
fence
here.
line?
This is my land.
So...
Yes, I measured it.
Guess it's turning
I
on.
can't help it, you're wrong.
Pardon me?
I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
We're all entitled to our own opinion, sir.
Yeah, we will. That's what it is, we will, but
I understand.
So your...
it's 50 feet, the road is 50 feet. But my land, the original lot is right
What's his
here.
last name?
Yeah, we're gonna show this.
The
I got the plan.
Lot 102-1.
Yeah.
Mr. Saulnier,
Wait,
please talk with us. No,
Yeah.
don't talk to him.
okay.
So your statement is that part of this proposed lot on the other side of Oak
Yeah,
Lane
yeah,
is your land,
yes,
and that goes back to when the town built the road.
yes.
Have you ever adjudicated that with the town? Has the town ever agreed with you on that
Well,
matter?
when the town built the thing, they didn't take any question. They followed what was, they didn't want to go this way, they went straight.
I understand what you're saying, sir, but did you and the town ever come to an agreement that that land was yours and
It was never questioned then,
and what did they do about it?
nothing.
So at
Oak
the,
Lane is a right-of-way, though.
That's a right of way, yeah, so he could own,
So
he could own to the other side
that
of it.
means somebody else owns it.
so we have to make a determination on who owns the land before we can grant any subdivision approvals.
Well, I'm not sure we do. I mean,
Okay.
we can say it's, I mean, we typically don't resolve land use ownership disputes. We can't, we're just the planning board. But, so we can approve this, but it's subject to any claims by Mr. DeSaulnier or anybody else to ownership. I'm assuming that from this comment, if Oak Lane, we don't know this, whether it's a right-of-way and not a fee interest, so that the road could sit on top of his land and his land could extend across the road. That's legally possible, whether it's true or not, we can't tell. But I don't know how we can resolve that issue.
We can't.
Because at the corner of this, right there is two markers, the granite marker. If you measure 50 feet, then on the other side of the 50 feet, where the triangle is, there's 3.5 feet, which doesn't belong to Mr. LaFawn.
What Mr. Raymond is saying is that if we make any decisions tonight, those decisions are subject to any civil matter, I'm guessing, between you and Mr. LaFawn. We don't adjudicate land disputes. We only take the information we're given and we make decisions. Barbara?
Well, this is public comment, we can deal with it afterwards.
Right, but I'm just saying, I'm just trying to explain to him what Mr. Raymond
I understand that, but I don't think that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
When we have plans in front of us, we have Mike Dahlberg or other applicants saying they've checked the deed,
Right.
they've
And they
matched
got
the
a
deed to the pins.
stamp on it.
And they have a stamp on it, and they say, this is what we say the property is. That's not what we have here.
Right.
So I am not willing to, without that sort of a certification that the applicant is representing, that the pins and the lines are consistent with their deed, given that Oak Lane is apparently agreed to be a right-of-way, I will just tell you, based on these comments, I am very reluctant to go ahead with this, because I am not interested in setting up civil disputes with neighbors when we would normally have some sort of a certification that what we're dealing with for the subdivision is the deeded parcel.
But isn't that why it's stamped? I mean, it's stamped by a surveyor, and the surveyor gives the plan references on the second page.
Right, but
Well, the original plan, Will said that was John P. Hill.
I said it.
Oh, okay.
But also, if you look
Okay, sorry.
at, if you look at the
Oh,
fifth
both are.
plan reference,
which one?
number 5, under plan references, it says subdivision plan for Andre and Helen DeSaulnier, which I believe is Mr. DeSaulnier here, dated July 6th, 2006, last revised October 2006.
Yeah, we subdivided the lot in two.
But there must be a survey on file for that subdivision.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there is, there was Mr. Wickard.
Oh.
All right, so we've
Okay, you
accepted,
have it.
we're not debating this right now.
Yeah, no, I just
as
was raising
stated.
it as an issue.
We
Okay,
we have
people
Mr.
pointed out.
DeSaulnier's comments, they're in the record, sir. And we thank, if you have anything else to say,
No, that's it.
well, we thank you for coming in.
Okay.
Anyone else here to speak at the public hearing? Okay, we'll close the public hearing for now.
I think the surveyor had something to say.
Yeah, he's gonna.
Yeah, I know he has something to say, we'll let him come back up.
But you want to keep the public hearing open while he speaks.
Well.
Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to
somebody might
because
wanna say
he's
something.
Yeah, he's,
part of that.
he's,
All right, well, the public hearing will remain open.
he's them.
I happen to bring along a couple of these 1974 plans,
Okay.
because I highlighted on.
Mr. DeSaulnier, come around where you can see what's going on if you'd like, please.
I'll give one right there. You want to pass these two down? I highlighted.
Are they different?
Nope, same plan. This is the same
I
plan.
don't see one of them.
Oh, I actually got 4.
Pass one to the other side.
Send one to the other side.
Yeah.
There you go, bro. You can look that thing.
These are Mr. Hill's plans?
No, I'm not.
That's the 1970.
Right, Craig, let's move it along.
That's the 1974 plan. I also have only one copy of a deed from Sylvia Ruthier and Bertha Ruthier to, let me go along here. Jeez, Armand Talbot in 1978. This is the predecessor entitled to Mr. LaFont. Beginning at a point marked by an oak hub in northwesterly corner of land herein described, parcel on the northeasterly line of Mast Road, said point being 127 feet southeasterly from the intersection of Lynchfield Park Road and Mast Road, which is the hub right beside where it says Mast Road.
It would be this one, this one.
I believe it's this. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Thence on a bearing north 55, 10, 11 east along land of Paul Way, 191.09 feet to a point. Thence south 37, 27, 12 east along a proposed road, which is Oak Lane, a distance of 98.48 to a point. Thence on a bearing south 420806 east along said proposed road, which is still Oak Lane,
So
a
do your,
distance of 99 feet to a point.
so do your drawings on the proposed plan you set forth coincide with the information on that
Yes.
deed?
The oak hub is here, one up here. That little jog is the angle point, this 1.52 feet. That's the angle point mentioned in this deed.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Why did you take for granted that the street was the straight line?
I didn't take, it's not a straight line.
Pardon me?
The street is not a straight line.
Well, it is right there, see it right here? This
I
is
see-
the
I see-
lot, right here.
No,
What are we doing?
that's the easement.
No, it's not the easement.
What are we doing?
No, it
Change
is not.
Read the deed.
Yeah. I'll get a copy from there. I guess you-
That's the PSNH easement. That dashed line is a PSNH easement.
Exactly.
Yeah, right there and right there, but it's still my land.
No, it was sold right here.
No, the
All
easement.
right, this debate's over, gentlemen. This debate is over.
Halfway through the right of way.
You two guys can debate this another time, but we're not gonna debate it at the planning
I
meeting.
understand.
If his,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
if his land extended here in the right of
Well,
way
I
went
think
over it,
it's important to note that the surveyor is basing his information on recorded information. It's,
It's a recorded
right, so if
information.
there's a change that needs
It's
to be
not
made,
clear
it needs to
where-
be, it can't be
where
made by
his
us.
original lot was.
Right, we have to
You
go
know,
by
let's
what's
say it
recorded.
came to here and we put the
Exactly.
road over it, he didn't lose his ownership of this. So that's really the issue. But I think we're entitled to rely on
It's the same plan.
a survey if we're not
It's the same plan.
absolutely
Yeah,
telling.
this is the land right here.
No, that's the right of way. That's the public service company right of way. This dash line is the right of way. The public service company. This is the Oak Lane.
I'll have to check on
Lot,
that.
lot one goes from here to here,
Yeah.
along here to here, 61 feet to there, down to here, back over.
We'll have to check on that.
Okay, here.
Guys, thank you. Have a truce.
Not really start ceasefire.
All right, Barbara, what do you think? What are we doing with this?
I'm not, you all can decide.
We're relying on survey information that's presented and certified and on,
Can I ask the engineer to read that deed with the,
The one I just gave to Butter?
oh, you just gave it to him?
Yes.
You just had one copy of it? Can you grab it and read it again? Just to read it.
Beginning at a point marked by an oak hub, when we read the whole thing?
No, the line that began, you have the line for 191, south 55, 10, 11
Yeah,
west.
we're going north 55, 10, 11 east,
Yeah,
along
Submit that
Land
to
of
the
Bog Way, a distance of 191.09 feet to a point.
right.
Thence on a bearing south 37, 27, 12 east, along a proposed road, a distance of 98.48 feet to a point.
that's the top line across under the word Oak Lane. Yep.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear, because that's why I don't understand, okay.
Thence
Craig, I
south-
think you may have to submit that document for the record to Joanne. Only because if you're reading from it and we don't have it, a copy of it, we need to
Sure,
have it for the
I
record.
understand.
When you're done reading off it.
Could we also get a copy of that plan?
John Hills is a little
Start-
Here, this
Now
one.
there's,
Yeah, you can have this
yes,
one.
there's 4 of them floating around.
That was presented to the planning board, so it's out.
So are we, as a board, are we accepting the surveyor certification for the site?
I kind of think we have to for our purposes.
Well, fine, I just want to get somewhere here.
Yeah,
Well, just for the record, that's the one from Hill, John Hill. That's signed by the current chairman of the planning board back at the time, which was Paul Bedard. It's stamped, accepted by the town, Goffstown Planning Board.
So, it's a signed plan, I wouldn't put any weight on it. Plan was we sign all sorts of things.
No, but the point is that's what.
Well,
Signed
the
property.
public hearing is still open, so should we gonna close the public hearing at this time so we can proceed?
Yes. Yes.
I'll just write it back here, I have it.
So to get back to this, the question, if I may, Mr. Chair, it's the waiver of the
Rectangle.
rectangle, and
It doesn't fit within the setbacks from the site.
but we can say, no, you can't create this lot, because you can't create a building rectangle, and that's the whole purpose of that, is to have room for a building. And you're creating a lot that doesn't, so why do we waive that on a small lot, when the purpose is to make sure there's buildable room?
Only because Pinardville is full of small lots.
No, I mean, okay, you can find it.
The neighborhood.
I mean,
It matches the
okay,
neighborhood.
I'm asking a question, but you have to find some
Matches the
basis.
neighborhood.
So
Did you take that into consideration, Craig, when you devised the lot lines? That you couldn't get the building rectangle in there?
I made that lot as big as I could. The existing house is 16 feet from the lot line.
I'm just asking. I see your
Also-
setback lines are written on there.
So is that,
Also, Mr. Chairman, you realize this has been taxed as 2 lots since 1975.
yeah, but
It's only been one.
But was it an actual subdivided lot?
Yeah, that's the plan I
Do you
just,
have a plan that shows me where it was subdivided?
It's not our.
the plan I passed
Right.
around.
He doesn't.
It wasn't
It
subdivided.
wasn't. So.
No, but it's been taxed as two lots.
Well, that's not our
I understand.
purview to recommend.
I understand
consider
that, but it is a little bit of a hardship to the property.
There you go. Okay. Folks, what are we doing? How much do you miss the rectangle by, Craig?
7 feet.
7 feet, okay.
You make a motion that we grant the waiver?
You can make any motion you want, whether it gets approved or not, depends on the
How many
answer.
things are on out here?
On what basis, though? What's our reasoning, and how do we distinguish? Are we just saying in Pinardville it doesn't matter anymore?
No.
Well, under these new rules that've been set by the court cases, we have to justify everything we do now because it'll get challenged in court.
Well, for one thing, it's been taxed for how many years?
That's not a planning consideration.
It is not a planning consideration, as much as I feel for the gentleman who's been paying taxes. And you are aware, Craig, all the new court decisions, that every decision we make, we have to say why we're gonna do it and why we're not doing it.
Yep, I
Because when
understand.
it goes to the Housing Appeals Board, we have to defend our decisions.
The next town over is trying to go through the same thing, sir.
So you understand that waiving that regulation without merit is difficult for us to do.
I understand.
Can I?
Phil?
One thing that is helpful in something like this, if you have joining properties, if other ones are, fit that bill with, it fits the neighborhood, it's shown, because that's what we have to deal with.
Well, but can't we give an allowance for financial hardship?
No, this isn't a variance.
Never been a,
No,
never been a criteria.
it's not a legally, it's not a consideration.
May I speak?
And he can do a lot merger.
Please,
it's
sir.
fine.
The whole reason this all came up to begin with was the original lot was shaped in an L. And my daughter is the one who found that out because the whole intent for me to do this is to gift her a lot so that she can afford to build a house. And the bank sees the lot as a down payment. So in a sense, it is a financial hardship for my daughter, but that's either here nor there for you.
That is correct, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to consider.
So Barbara, go back to that. Do they could do a lot merger?
No, it's already one lot.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please,
Maybe
Joanne.
that Craig comes back showing a proposed house design, you know, type of house with all of that, driveway, everything that you would look to see, even a patio or a deck.
But how does that
To see if he-
justify us to waive the regulation? Where is the justification then?
To see if it would actually even be feasible.
Of course you
in the
can,
first
anybody
place.
can squeeze a house in there.
Well, I don't mean by squeeze it, I mean appropriately place a house that would be, you know, large enough.
So are you saying that if we were to make a decision on that, we could defend ourselves in court if someone claimed that we were errant in our decision?
Well, but isn't that the point, like the 60 by 70 is just to put a square, like Joanne is
Doesn't
saying?
mean that that's the house size.
Right, so when we do a subdivision, they don't have to design it, they just have to show the square.
Yeah.
So in lieu of that, can we say, can you give us a design of where the house deck is gonna be? Is that reasonable?
One of my earlier recommendations is that, and I don't know if the applicant would agree with this, but that the house be situated so that the garage could be attached, but it could be behind the house, and that you would access it from Oak Lane. So you would be pulling down Oak and drive into the attached garage, but it would be behind the house, so you wouldn't be taking up any further width.
I talked about my client. We mentioned, because Eric mentioned your driveway came off Mast Road, you have to cut the curb, tip downs in, all that kind of stuff. Come off Oak Lane, it makes a lot more sense for the driveway. And yes, basically the house would just be a backload garage. And yes, we talked about that, that's not a problem.
I'm with the justification crowd here. If we're gonna make a decision that we're gonna end up not being able to defend ourselves.
Well, if the purpose of the 60 by 70 square is to make sure the lot's buildable, wouldn't me showing you that the lot is buildable meet that?
If you want to try to interpret the regulation that way, yeah.
You don't
That's the way I'm trying to
need-
interpret it, Mr. Chairman.
Well, you don't need the 60 by 70 like
I'm in
Kennedy
defense
said
of
for
property
the
right now.
house. Unless you're building a giant house, which I doubt that you are.
Go down to Pinardville, take a look.
Well,
Not that
I
this
haven't
gentleman's
seen
doing
giant
that, but
houses in
Pinardville is changing. So, I need to get the board members' decision on whether we're moving forward or not on this.
If I can just say, I think that the page that was provided with the LaFawn subdivision as to the neighborhood, as somebody said, provides a lot more information about what the neighborhood would look like in regards to the findings we're supposed to make. But it's not part of the plan, and frankly, the waiver, the written waiver request as set forth in the letter really doesn't address the requirements for the waiver.
Clock is ticking, folks.
I think it should be continued.
I'm going to move that we, I'd hate to see them back, if the applicant continues, so the applicant can come back with a, whatever, sketch, conceptual plan showing how the building, house can be placed on the lot with the access to Oak Lane, conforming otherwise to zoning, and a representation about the neighborhood and how that this proposal would be consistent with the neighborhood. Because all we have in front of us is a GIS map that we're drawing conclusions from.
So Jeff made a motion for the applicant to provide a drawing of the house and the driveway on the lot for review.
This is on the theory that you said that if we're going to grant this, we have to make specific findings as to why we're granting it.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded by Jim. And are we going to continue this to a date certain, Jim?
Yeah, I don't think, well, they can tell us, I don't think it's going to take us taking that long to do, and we've already beat it.
I know our meeting's filled up on the,
Yeah, but you would want to come back for one thing?
excuse me? Does he want to come back to do that with us?
No, I'm just noting that we have nothing yet scheduled for the next meeting.
The 22nd.
Right.
How fast are you with that pen of yours?
How quick is your CAD?
You'll be here Monday.
Is that good enough time for you, Joanne? Today's Thursday. You'll have it here on Monday.
Yeah, I think so. Again, I don't have a calendar with me.
Well, I'm going to buy you one, because you seem to have a problem with you and a
So I'll
calendar.
be here Monday, you want your comments,
By Thursday,
you want
right.
your packets
By
done by
that
Thursday,
Thursday.
yeah.
So if he has it here for Monday, we can put him on to the 22nd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the
So-
board want to come in and
Is
hear
that
one
acceptable
thing?
with you, Craig?
Yes.
So Jim, can you include your motion to be continued to September the 22nd?
Yeah.
Does the board want to come in here for one item? Or would you rather stretch it out?
Let's just come in and have a meeting and get it over with. I don't mind coming in for
Yeah, I
one.
agree, I'd rather come in and have a shorter meeting.
Who knows what's going to happen with the next two applications?
We only have one more.
All right. You do? One?
Shit, two.
Two, I thought so.
Yeah, there's a second page.
There's another page, yeah. Okay, Jim had made a motion to continue to, for the applicant to provide a drawing of the house and the driveway for review and be continued to 9/22.
Yeah, if I, just to note, if I look at the regulation, this area must include a potential building site that's practically usable in terms of shape and dimensions. And then we put a 60 by 70, but you could interpret that as meaning, well, the intent is to make sure that it's practically usable. And if we put the emphasis on that by what he shows, we could find a basis
Jim's in English, make sure you put the emphasis on the correct word, and it's all gonna go right through.
But I'll be on vacation, so do whatever you want. It's 2 weeks.
All right, I'm gonna call a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstention, motion. We'll see you the 22nd.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, we are on to map 42, lot 66, McFarland Road.
Thank you.
Oh, there.
All right, Joanne, you're on.
Okay.
Right there.
Jean Gale was approved 2 years ago to raise an existing seasonal camp and build a new single-family year-round home.
Could you please explain for a minute, under ours or under zoning or who?
Under zoning.
Zoning.
Her property is on McFarland Road. And so there's lots of seasonal camps up in that area. So they were approved to rebuild, and at the time, the driveway was shown. I think they also had to come to this board as well, I'm sorry. At the time, the driveway was shown, but it was pointed out by Eric that it did not meet the driveway regulations. So there was a note added that, before a building permit, CO could be issued, it needed to require those, needed to meet those regulations. So Mrs. Gale and Ms. Gale came back, and she did not want to remove some hemlock trees that had been existing there for over 40 years. So she is currently asking for a waiver to be closer than the 10-foot setback from the side property line. The driveway is in the same place that it had been, but in order for it to get the driveway permit, it needs the planning board's permission to grant a waiver so that she can basically keep the driveway where it is.
So
She
this
has
is an existing
installed-
driveway?
She's installed granite blocks.
This is an existing driveway, Joanne?
Bark mulch. Yes,
read
it was
that.
existing and it didn't meet the requirements, so then they had said, well, you have to meet the requirements in order to get the driveway permit. But now that she's actually constructed the home and figured out what's what with the driveway, she does not want to remove the hemlock trees, so she can explain this better than I.
I'm just confused, if it's an existing driveway and it's an existing home, why does she need a new driveway
Because
permit? Scott?
the driveway was not for this home, it was for a seasonal,
It was a condition of
Residence.
approval, was the main reason.
From a prior planning board?
I believe so, yeah.
from a different
Yeah,
structure.
So, my predecessor had a comment that the driveway, as shown on that plan, didn't meet town regulations, and it needed to be shifted to get the 10-foot separation between the
Sideline?
the sideline, yeah.
This is just last year that we did this.
No one had any opposition, including the fire department.
And is the abutter,
Me,
you own both?
I own both properties.
You own both properties, so you only want to get a waiver from yourself for your own property?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad you just told me that, that's very good. All right, folks, before we recognize the applicant, do the board members have any questions for Joanne?
Is the application complete and ready to be heard?
Okay, we'll do
Yes,
that
it
part
is.
first.
I move that we find the application is complete, accept it for hearing, and find there's no regional impact.
And we will accept the waivers for discussion purposes only?
Correct. So is that's all that's before us, right?
Yes.
No, actually, she's asking for an amendment to a previously approved plan condition, to waive that condition.
To remove that
Yeah,
condition.
and find the waiver to do that.
Okay, all those in favor of Jim's motion to find this complete, ready for review, no regional impact, and waivers for discussion purposes only, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, it passes. All right, questions for Joanne from board members? Great. Could you please identify yourself? Oh, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't look over my shoulder. Could you please identify yourself for the record?
Sure, my name is Jean Gale. I live on 41 McFarland Road. The property that Joanne referenced is right next door on the butter. We did build the property. The driveway is the existing driveway that I've been there for basically my whole life. So that driveway has always been in existence. And so we weren't planning to move it. You know, we've got trees that go, you know, they're 2 big hemlocks. We've actually had to take down 5 trees just to put the septic system in. So I'm really trying to keep the place, you know, shaded.
Yep.
So I really don't want to have to move it over in order to meet that. We did put some, I don't know if I showed pictures, but we did put some granite blocks between the properties, you know, that was a recommendation from the DPW. So there's like cement blocks between the driveways and bulk mulch between it.
So that was also a condition.
Right.
Yeah, one of the conditions was to sever the connection between the 2 lots, basically, because there was a driveway that extended from one lot to the other, and that's what the purpose of those blocks was.
Is there another building over there, Miss Gale? I see a little sketch of a foundation or something.
That's a house, isn't it?
Oh, that's a shed.
That's on the other lot, I'm
Oh,
talking
on the
about.
other lot?
There's a little bit of an outline of, looks like a building. No, right here on the
No,
bottom.
there's no.
Oh, that's the old,
That's
so
the
that's
existing
existing.
house.
So,
Yeah, sorry.
when you talk about severing, so the other driveway fed both of the properties, is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
it kind of looped around.
Okay, so
That's
this-
my
we're
understanding.
getting more out of this as we
Yeah.
weed here.
Yeah.
Okay. So the driveway on lot 4266 is, sole purpose is to service that driveway only,
Mhm.
or that property only, okay.
Yeah, and then the blocks were, the intent was to, so that each parcel had their own driveway.
Right.
It didn't interconnect.
Thank you. Well, this seems pretty cut and dry, folks. What are we gonna do with it? Oh, we gotta open a public hearing, doggone it. Okay, I'm gonna open a public hearing here for this application. If anybody here would like to speak, it is time for you to step forward and do so. Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'm usually the tight guy, but we can find that strict application would cause practical difficulty, and it would not affect the purposes intent of the regulations in that this was an existing driveway, and I would make the condition that the shade trees be retained as much as feasible and as a benefit to the town and the property owners as a condition of retaining the driveway, so we don't go in there tomorrow and find they've been cut down anyway, because it is an existing driveway.
So are you making a motion to grant the waiver, Jim?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody want to second Jim's motion?
I'll second.
Phil, you didn't jump in there quick enough. Waiting for you. I had
She
Phil
came
written right
late,
here.
so I let her get a couple of seconds in.
Okay. So we have a motion to grant the waiver. Now, Jim, does that in of itself amend the site plan? Or do we
Yeah,
have to do a separate?
and grant, and amend the condition on the previously approved site plan to eliminate that condition.
Will you
I
please?
think the other plan
I will second that.
had something to do with a wetland setback for the structure itself.
Well, we're not waiving other conditions, just solely the driveway.
No,
Okay,
I
so-
understand that. I think that's why they were here in the first place, for the home, because they weren't here for a site plan or anything.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, they're in the shoreline.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it's referred to. The one 2 years ago was the shoreline permit plan.
Are we ready to vote on the motion? We have more discussion.
yeah, I guess you'll have to get the correct wording, Dale, from Joanne then, how to describe what we did before.
You good on that?
She was good 5 minutes ago.
I'm just making sure. Okay. Ready to vote on the motion? Everyone to vote has made a motion to grant a waiver and amend the condition on the previously approved site plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, passes. Thank you for coming in, thank you for waiting so long.
So the lesson is come in at 10:15, or if you want, come in at 8, we won't.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, and the last person in the back of the room, we have 2 people left, are here for map 4, lots 31A and 31B. Joanne?
So, we have land located on Leach Hill Road, the addresses are 58 and 94. They are owned by James and Kim Lowell and Raymond and Patricia Carey. They are zoned conservation and open space. So what they're basically trying to do is a lot line adjustment between the 2 lots. Currently, lot 31B is 5 acres. They'd be increasing that to 5.5 acres, which would then bring that into conformance with the zoning. So that's really what they're doing. The application is complete and there is no regional impact.
I'll make the usual motion then to accept it.
Got a motion? There you go, Phil, good job.
Phil will make the usual second.
There are 3 waivers, I should say that.
Okay, is there anything else, any questions for the staff from members?
Can you make a recommendation on the waivers, Joanne, please?
Yes, Scott has already done that. Number 1 waiver is topo and special features and the wetland delineation. There's no opposition from staff. The second waiver is for the granite bounds at the front corners, and DPW is requesting that they be granite with embedded magnetic discs. The applicant has requested to waive this requirement because they are already set in iron rod to show the property owner where the adjusted property line would be. So that's really not our concern, because what they should have done is to put the bound in the proper way in the first place. It doesn't matter what they're trying to show the property owner.
Yeah, I mean, a simple stake pounded into the ground would have worked to show someone where the property bound would be, where our regulations require the right-of-way granite bounds with magnetic discs, but they decided to drive an iron rod in before any type of site approval, so I kind of...
How many bounds are involved in this?
Just one.
One single bound?
Yeah.
There's a 3rd waiver, right?
The 3rd waiver is section 3C7 16, which is the boundaries of the tract with their true bearings and distances. They did not fully survey the entire lot, which is 20.5 acres. They surveyed only the portion to verify the new lot line.
Do you have a position on that waiver?
I would recommend that waiver as well, since none of the other lines are being amended at this point in time.
Did you make recommendations, all 3, or only the 3rd one, Joanne?
1 and 3.
1 and 3 you recommend?
Correct.
Thank you. All right,
Are these are development regulations, waivers, not zoning waivers?
Yes,
It's a
yes.
provision I just read. Are you asking for a motion now, Mr. Chair? You want the applicant to have an opportunity to...
I'm trying to, did I ever call for a vote on the application? No, I didn't. So we had a motion to find this was ready for review, no regional impact and waivers.
Yeah,
Jim and Phil?
it's subject to waivers.
Discussion. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, okay. So we went on to the waivers a little ahead of schedule here, and we talked about the waivers. I would like at this time I think we'll get the applicant to speak what they'd like to say, and we'll move on. So for your record, sir.
Good evening, James Smith from Allen Major. It's my survey. So basically, as Joanne said, we basically just making that lot conforming. In regards to waiver number 2 with the bound, I was talking to my field crew after I got the response back from DPW, and they told me when they put the pin in, there's a lot of base stones from the road there, from where the wall was, and then it's kind of jammed in there, so we would have to rip whatever base stones in the wall. It'd be quite an ordeal. I mean, we'll give it a try, but I'm not sure what the success is. We may have to just leave the pin. I'm not sure if we could put concrete around it. That would satisfy the requirement.
Well, we'll let, when the time comes, we'll let our engineer speak to you about that. Just go on with what you have to say.
So basically, the existing setback to the side of the building was 37.5 feet, and we're proposing 76.3 for the proposed lot line. And has 50 feet of frontage. Basically, it makes the lot 31B conform to frontage and to setback. Basically, Joe Hint said it all.
And who are you?
I'm the purchaser of the land.
Okay, and your name is, sir?
What's that?
What is your name?
James Lowell.
James Lowell, okay. So, I'm going to go to the, Mr. Smith's question to you. Scott, is anything other than a granite bound with a metallic disc acceptable?
Well, I did take a picture of this stake, so I'm just looking for it right now. There can be exceptions. I mean, if there is a rock wall there. We don't typically like to see those dug out. And the road was, I don't know what year it was redone, but it was redone at some point, and it looks like the gravel base did kind of go into the wall. So if there's a different hardship than what was put on the waiver request, I think we may be able to work something out, because I know we have waived that in the past because of difficult digging. But the way the waiver request was written was just, we already put this in the ground, so we don't want to do the other.
Right.
So.
Maybe an updated waiver request would be appropriate?
Yeah, I think if that's, just a rewording or something, because like the chairman said, we have to back up everything.
Sure, understand.
Now. It just explained the hardship of the digging and the existing stone wall, and I think we'll be good, because I saw this was an approval condition on a previous one that they couldn't dig it either, so.
I just hate ripping those old walls apart too.
Yeah.
Do you guys still do drill points and mark drill points
Sure.
on walls?
Sure.
But is that better than an iron rod? Because iron rods can be pulled out pretty easily.
Yeah.
Well, iron rods come out. Walls move with the frost, and then kids come by and you yard the wall, unless it's driven down in 3 feet.
It's driven down 3 feet.
Okay, well that's.
So it's down into the wall, it's snaked through the wall going down 3 feet, and it's gonna be quite a job just to.
Fine, okay, well that's a different.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe an updated request for a waiver from
Not a
that to the
problem.
DPW. So that would eliminate the second waiver request. for
Well,
the
no,
granite
it
bound.
wouldn't eliminate it, it just
Well,
would make it something that might be recommended, because they'd come to some agreement as to what
So
they're
the
gonna
granite
do.
bounds is one of our development regulations?
Yes. it
Okay,
is.
so
Yeah.
we can discuss that, and it can be conditioned on an updated waiver request
On
to
a new
DPW.
request.
So let's talk about these waivers one at a time. Development regulations, topographic map, special features, and wetland delineation.
I'm going to move that we waive the requirements on the grounds that it's, what's the wording? It will not affect the purposes and intent of these regulations, given the nature of the proposal and the fact that the line has been shown, the common line has been shown between the two lots.
Okay, so Jim has made a motion to grant the
Yeah,
waiver.
and I think we would say we are not waiving this as to any future development of either lot.
Right. For this particular purpose only.
I'll second that.
So then we have Jim and Phil. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of granting the waiver, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Waiver motion granted. Number 2, the waiver for the bounds.
I would grant the waiver on the same basis, provided that a amended waiver request is submitted satisfactory to the Department of Public Works and to the planning director, and that well, I guess, Scott, do we need to make any more inspection, or are you good based on your picture with what we're proposing?
I could go back out there, but I think, which I probably will, to get a little better sense of what it was.
Why don't I make it subject to the reasonable approval of the Public Works director?
It's not town engineer.
Oh, town engineer.
Yeah, you really want to bring Adam into this?
No, I don't. No,
Yes!
Which is why I stopped.
I'll second it.
He's busy.
Okay,
designing the EV.
any discussion on the motion to grant the waiver for the bound with an amended request provided to Public Works and then certification by the town engineer?
Yeah, it's provided to the town, it's provided to the planning director and to the town engineer.
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, waiver passes. Last waiver is for the boundaries of the track with their true bearings and distances.
And you're, Joanne and Scott, you're,
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. That one came in late, that's why I didn't have a response to this one on there. I had already-
well, I'd move then, we make the same finding that the,
Nature of the purpose
yeah,
and intent.
yes, the waiver does not affect the purpose and intent of the regulations, given the nature of the.
Yeah, second.
Okay, all those in favor, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, where we have to go, what else is to do on this application, Joanne? Is that it?
That,
Oh, yeah, I already,
well, let's see here.
You could approve
You would
I'll
need
open
to-
the public hearing, wait a minute, I gotta
Yeah,
cover my
open the
bounds.
hearing.
Public hearing is open at 9:55. Anybody here to speak on this application? Seeing none, close public hearing. Anything else on this application we had to act on, Joanne?
Well, if you would like to approve it this evening, we have a list of conditions, recommended conditions. And I also added in my first stab at findings of fact. Feel free to modify them.
I would add to that the proposal meets all requirements of zoning and with the waivers, the site plan subdivision regulations. So it can be more specific.
So,
Yeah,
am I hearing a motion?
Yeah, I'm making a motion that we make those findings as I just amended, and we grant the application with the conditions, except that condition 6 will be approved plan.
So
I
we're
guess-
granting a lot line adjustment, correct?
Yeah. I guess condition 6 can be as is, because we've added that as a condition of the waiver, subject to the conditions of the waiver, I guess. And number 9 is not a condition of approval. I don't know what that is.
Well, I wanted to point that out. I guess it bears putting into the record, then Mrs. Pear is concerned about there will be no land use change to 4-31A.
That's a tax matter. We don't control that.
So I think we should
just don't
strike
think
that
it's
one then, right?
appropriate for us to.
Strike 9.
Okay.
He doesn't want any more phone calls.
I'll second
So
that.
do they need number 10, what does number 10 mean? Do they need a driveway permit?
They do, once they build a house.
Okay, so we can change that to, they have to obtain a driveway permit, but you've already said that,
Well, complies with town rules.
yeah,
Just getting a permit.
yeah, okay. It's too late at night to wordsmith.
We're close to my number, Jim, so don't stop talking.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Jim and Phil did this motion?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion
Yeah, and the findings of fact.
to grant the lot line adjustment with the conditions and the findings provided by the town planner?
As amended.
Correct, Jim?
Yeah, as amended. Yeah.
As amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Gentlemen,
Thank you very much.
You have to wait until 10.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
may
thanks
be
for
an
waiting till
advantage to
10.
going last, huh?
Joanne, do we have any other business before this board tonight?
No, we don't.
No.
Motion
Phil?
to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
We have, we have to appoint someone to EDC. Who wants to volunteer for that shitty
I
job?
almost forgot
Excuse
that.
me.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you for your time.
We're usually not this nice.
Sorry, Joanne, I didn't mean it to you. I've been on you, yeah, Commission plenty.
They meet the first Wednesday of each month at 6 PM here.
Who's not here tonight?
Nobody.
It used to be Karen, didn't it?
It was, yes.
So somebody want to volunteer to be on EDC? Nobody does. Well, I'm not going to appoint anybody, so.
People are free to attend.
Sure they can.
Because I'm there doing the minutes.
So would anybody be opposed to Gail LeBrecq as an alternate, being our EDC representative, since she's there anyway doing minutes?
No.
Nope.
That's a great solution.
So thank you, Gail,
Thank
for...
you, Gail, for volunteering.
Might as well. since I'm
Give her
already
his
there.
binders back.
I believe Patty
Yeah, Patty
does
takes
use
them.
them over again.
I
Yes,
gave about
if
9
you
of them in
Don't
there.
want
Yeah.
them.
They're expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, was that the last item on the agenda, Gail?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Who already made it?
Second.
Bill and Kimberly. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 10:02.
Not bad, Tim.